Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes an immortal sage trainer. Highschool DxD Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Let me tell you a story. It's not an overly long story, but it's a story I wish to tell you. Forgive me if it sounds like I'm going on, but I like to speak the story now and again. It's an important story. A very important story. One that must not be forgotten by either time or by those who are aware of it. Human nature is a fickle thing. Humans hate what they don't understand, and humans fear what they don't understand as well, by nature. Not all humans are this way. Those who have experienced hate and fear, and overcome it, are what humans should be. Humans that stand above their base instincts. When a demon assaults a village, humans hate that demon. When that demon is sealed into a baby, humans hate that baby, because they need something to place their sadness and sorrow onto. It's just how they are. It's both a wonderful and sad thing, the human's ability to foster emotions. Be they emotions of love, or the opposite, and in this case, the emotion of hate. Humans will hate that baby. They will show that baby nothing but hatred, and when they can hate the baby as it grows up, they will do something worse than hate. Ignore. A child who has done nothing wrong but knows nothing but hate and loneliness, is starved. I wouldn't say starved in a physical sense, because even physically starving to death would be more merciful than this type of starving. A child growing up with nothing, no love, no hope, and no family will be starved for something else. The love and companionship of others, and not getting it, a child will also grow to hate those who have that, hate those who hurt that child, and hate those who didn't hurt that child. It's the pain of hatred and loneliness that would cause that child to understand suffering, true suffering that can't simply be defeated through mere words. That suffering could only be defeated through determination. That child had to grow, try its hardest in order to prove himself to the world. But more importantly, as the child grew and proved itself, that child would come to understand the things many humans take for granted. Bonds. Everyone is born with them, but so many take them for granted until they are gone. But this child who knew no bonds, when given even one, would refuse to ever let go. Now, that child had formed those bonds, and through those bonds that child started to mature and grow, becoming not only stronger, but even more determined to do whatever it takes to protect those bonds. That child? It was a boy. That boy never gave up, because giving up and losing those bonds meant going back to that hell of loneliness. After all, humans are a species that needs something. They need something more important than food, or water, or even their own lives themselves. Humans need something that gives their life purpose, a purpose that fuels them, allows them to give their feeble existence meaning and become something more than just humans. Having purpose is what changes a human from a human into a person. The boy found his purpose. The boy had a dream for a long time, but after forming bonds, the boy finally had a purpose. His purpose wasn't something so mundane as learning new skills or helping others out of the goodness of his heart, because the child who had never once received love had so much love of his own to give. The boy refused to go back to hell, like the demon everyone told him he was. Now loved, the boy would rather give his own life than allow others to take his friends' lives and send him back to that lonely hell. He was a failure. The boy was a big failure though, and his very first bond, the bond closest to his heart at the time, tried to cut itself off from him. His best friend, who had experienced that same hell as him, tried to willfully return back to that very same hell. The boy, who had vowed to save his friend, did everything in his power to protect his very precious bond. He failed. He couldn't protect his bond, and his friend left him to go and get a revenge against the person who had put him into his own hell. While the boy had known of hatred, he had decided to fight hatred with love. His best friend, who had known love and later learned of hatred, decided to fight hatred with revenge. The failure trained and worked harder than ever before, and for years he gained more strength and skill. He refused to allow his failure to stop him, and he vowed to rescue his friend from the hell that he knew so well to be more horrible than anything else. All the while, his own inner darkness kept growing, because no matter how hard a person tried, no human is without their own inner darkness. He grew stronger, and he saw his best friend again. He failed to save him, again. His master, another bond the boy held so dearly to his heart, was killed as well. The boy, who had never truly lost a bond, because he had gone so long without bonds, now understood the desire for revenge. He understood how much the pain of losing somebody to death hurt, and he turned to the darkness in his heart. He got stronger, and he learned new powers, surpassing even his master, until he came face to face with his master's killer. He failed. Another dear friend to the boy sacrificed herself, proclaiming her love for him, and at such a moment her life was also seemingly stripped away from her. He failed to protect her as well, and in his weakness, he allowed the demon to take control of him. Overcome by hatred, the boy was saved from himself, by the remnants of a bond he didn't know he had. He defeated his master's killer, he succeeded where he had earlier failed, and he came face to face with the true man behind the killer. Humans, when offered to hurt those who hurt them, by nature always hurt them. The boy, who now knew about revenge and the cycle of hatred, gave up his desire for revenge so he could end the cycle. He forgave his master's killer, and he succeeded in changing human nature itself in both himself and the killer. His heart stronger than ever. He wasn't strong enough, so he trained, and soon enough he even conquered the darkness in his own heart. He was one of very few humans who had no evil in their hearts. He was a human with no darkness of his own now, a being of pure light. Human in body, but now in soul, so very different than those who came before him. He mastered the demon inside of him, and attained even new powers and abilities that could turn the tide of a war so easily. War? Yes, the boy learned of a war, and just like I said, with his powers he turned the tides of war in the favor of his allies. He fought so many great and powerful foes, he always came out on top, until he didn't and failed once more. But his bonds had always held strong, and enemies who had been changed by his bonds and his heart saved the dying boy and helped him attain a greater power than before. Where is the boy's friend in all of his? At his side, for now, their destinies were never far apart, even though they fought for different reasons. When they came face to face with even a goddess, they couldn't lose. They won the war together, saving the world and uniting everyone using the boy's pure heart and desire to even the need for revenge. The boy and his friend came to blows. Who won? After failure and failure, you would expect him to fail again, but it finally happened. He won, and more than just a victory, his heart finally truly connected with his friends and changed him. No longer did he desire revenge, but now he decided to stand by his friend and never stray from his new path of redemption. The world was saved, and the cycle of hatred broken. That isn't to say the world was safe though. More gods came, some from the moon and even some from beyond that, but the boy who had now become a man never gave up and always stayed true and strong. He was strong now, he was the strongest who had ever lived. So strong that nobody could really match him, other than his best friend. But sometimes man comes face to face against an enemy he can't fight, an enemy that he should never fight. This enemy didn't want to fight the man, so he sent the man to another dimension, because this new enemy was a boy that had come to view the man as his own father. He sent him away, in order to help him, sending the man with his only daughter away to see another day. That man's name? I'm sure I mentioned it, but even if I didn't mention it, I'm pretty sure that you can guess who it was. That man was me. The man telling the story spoke as he sat on top of a rock, looking down on a younger woman with a slight grin on his face. Blue eyes sparkling in the moonlight, and golden hair softly swaying in the wind, 3 whisker marks on each cheek. He wore a black jacket with a small red swirl on the back, and bright orange pants, his right hand covered in bandages as he placed said hand against his chin. The man stood up and laughed as he turned to the sky, and smiled wider. That man was, is, and will always be me, Naruto Uzumaki. Senjutsu Island. For as long as Yukai had known about the wonders of Senjutsu and chakra itself, they had learned of the existence of an island hidden from the rest of the world that could teach the wonders of it. The island having a teacher on it with so much power, locating the power of this teacher was the only way to locate the island itself. Even then, it was hard to get to the island itself, seeing as the island was located in a place that would make it harder for most Yukai species, even the rare humans who went to the island, to actually physically get to. Wuwa, this place is so big, and that is the empty Onari in the middle of it where the great sage lives, correct? A small girl asked as she looked at a massive scale island. The island containing an extremely dense jungle, actually it contained multiple layers of different areas. The outside of the island, its outermost ring, was that of a beach that surrounded the entire island. Then was a dense jungle, and from where the girl was sitting, she could see a ring of desert just after the jungle. Empty Onari in the middle of it was so tall, it reached up into the clouds, going so high that the top of the mountain wasn't even visible anymore. Flying is not allowed on the island, so this is as far as I can take you, Fujimai. You've got to travel to the top of Empty Onari yourself from here on out. A large dog with a body made out of lightning itself spoke to her, dropping her off next to the island's beach. The girl, Fujimai, was no older than 9 years old, wear a body matching her age. She had a backpack on, filled with only enough supplies to last her a few days. The lightning beast flew off. Thank you, Kumawadari. Don't worry, I'll come back a master at Senjutsu. I wouldn't be surprised if I mastered Senjutsu and chakra before you could even miss me. Fujimai shouted out with a great smile. She huffed to herself, before turning around and seeing the jungle in the distance. She huffed and puffed her chest out, starting out on her trek towards the island with confidence. -1 week later. Fujimai was panting as she hid behind a fallen tree, frozen in place as she held her bleeding arm, trying hard not to cry from the pain. She quickly covered her mouth when the beast chasing her stomped its massive feet and stopped next to her. A large, scaled mouth sniffed the air next to her, teeth thicker than her arm peeking out from behind its maw. It sniffed at her, before it started to move on when she stayed perfectly still. She stayed silent, and unmoving for 20 minutes at least, before she breathed a sigh of relief. There were creatures in the jungle that shouldn't be alive. Fujimai learned that quickly when she came face to face with monsters from the far past the first day. Turns out, the trek to Mt. Onari was a dangerous one to start out with, considering even a week in, she hadn't been able to get past the jungle portion of the island. A nut hit her head, and Fujimai saw a small monkey sitting in a tree, on a branch 100 feet up in the air, and she glared at it. Damn monkeys, being safe in the trees. I hate monkeys now the trees are so thick and smooth it's hard to climb them. Fujimai would love to take her anger out on one of the few animals smaller than she was. Most animals on the island were around her size, but many island creatures were a lot bigger and stronger than she was. She had been surviving on eating the lizards that she could catch running around, or leaving the jungle and going back to the beach to fish in the ocean. The monkey laughed at her, before jumping away from tree branch to tree branch. A large tiger appeared, and Fujimai froze when it looked at her. The tiger appeared to be close to 15 feet tall, thick and burly, with fangs that could rip even a yokai like her to pieces. Fujimai allowed her white cat ears to appear on her head, and a tail to appear behind her. The tiger seemed to analyze her intelligently for a few moments, before it looked up into the tree and saw a monkey that had decided to come back and see what was happening. It moved towards the tree, and Fujimai remained frozen to try and not provoke the tiger. Nekasha blood. Thank you. Fujimai had never been more thankful that she had the blood of cat demons in her body, since it was saving her life right now. She blinked when she saw the tiger walking up the side of the tree. She blinked again and looked closely, feeling something off about what the tiger was doing as it broke out into a run up the tree. The tiger started to run at the monkey in the tree, that wisely decided it was time to really make an escape. A death screech was heard moments later, and blood rained down from the tree, before the tiger landed in front of her with a death monkey in its teeth. It tossed the monkey onto the ground in front of her, before it started to walk off, leaving to find larger prey that it could eat, no doubt. -3 months later. I see, so that is how it does it. The animals that can use chakra focus their chakra to the bottom of their feet or paws. The trees can't be climbed through normal means, Fujimai thought to herself as she watched some boars using chakra in their hooves to climb up the side of a tree. A boar 5 times her height at that, and it was climbing a tree just so that it could partake of an apple in it. She was still stuck in the jungle. The only small creatures like herself that could go any deeper were those who were able to travel in the trees, because going any deeper in the jungle meant that you would be entering the land of the giant creatures. The ancient ones that preyed on everything that entered their land. The only safety was in the trees, something she couldn't do. For nearly 4 months now, she had been stuck at the beach and in the start of the jungle, because she wasn't able to climb these trees. Fujimai looked at a nearby tree, and then down at her own feet. She took her inner energy, her chakra, and put it into her feet before she pushed it up against the tree itself. She did the same with her other foot, before she tried to stand on the tree, and right away she slipped off and landed on her butt. She growled at her own failure, before she tried to figure out what she had done wrong. Duh, my feet aren't clean, gotta do this with clean feet, Fujimai stated as she grabbed a torn piece of her clothes, and started to wipe away all the dirt on the soles of her feet. She took a running start once she was done cleaning her feet, before she failed instantly again, only this time her face hit the tree before she hit the ground. This was going to be harder than she thought. She was slipping, maybe she wasn't using enough chakra? -2 months later. Too much chakra broke the tree bark and caused you to explode off the tree. Too little chakra would cause you to slip. It was about finding the perfect balance of chakra that allowed a person to stick to the tree. She had learned the right amount of chakra within only 3 weeks of casual training, when she wasn't escaping from predators or living her life and finding food. It had taken 3 weeks, but she had mastered using that right amount of chakra at least. The perfect amount of chakra allowed you to stick, and didn't hurt the tree either. Fujimai smiled as she looked down at a T-Rex that was wandering around its territory, looking for the new scent that had gotten mixed into its territory. She was higher up than the T-Rex could reach though, and it wasn't thinking to look up. Fujimai picked an apple from the tree, the first apple she had gotten to eat in so long since she had started her journey, and her first bite of it was so very sweet. A well-earned reward. Even learning the right amount of chakra wasn't enough though. Maintaining it and never letting your mind slip, that is even harder than finding the right amount. I'm glad I learned that before getting to this point. Fujimai chewed her apple, thinking where she could be right now if she didn't learn that fact. She might have slipped off the tree and landed right on the ground, right where the big killers would have wanted her. Well, too bad for them, but she wasn't going to be losing her control anymore. She had spent more than a month mastering how to maintain her control over the right amount of chakra. It was only a couple hours of travel by tree until she could get to the desert at this point, so she took her small break, before she started to rush off towards the desert section of the island with a smile on her face. The closer she got to the desert, the hotter the island seemed to get as well, and the jungle started to get thinner and thinner. -2 years later. Ha ha ha, this is still hell. Fujimai took shelter next to a cactus as she looked at the desert surrounding her. It was a nightmare in the desert, because she quickly learned that the desert is filled with more danger than the jungle. The fact remains that there were little predators in the desert was one thing, but the fact that the desert was filled to the brim with large sections was something more dangerous than predators were another. Dry quicksand. The desert had large amounts of dry quicksand in it. Any step in this desert could get you sucked to your death. She had seen large predators, young ones, come into the desert only to meet their ends when they fell to one of the quicksand points. She had spent over 2 years traveling all over the desert, traveling between the desert and the jungle in order to feed herself while in the desert. In 2 years, she had made no progress. She was creating a mental map of where all the different quicksand spots were, but the harsh winds changed the layout of the desert every day. Every time she mapped the desert, the few predators in the desert were also a bitch to deal with. In nearly 3 years of being on the island, she was still making very little progress. She had come to this island a 9-year-old, and now she was 12 years old. Her birthday had been within those first 5 months of her being on the island. She had expected the trip to be quick and easy, but she wasn't even at the halfway point to reaching the great sage of Mt. Oinari. She wanted to give up, but if she gave up at this point, she would have wasted years. Not to mention, I don't have a way off the island. I need to get to him. Fujimai thought as she crawled out from under her shelter. Chakra. In nearly 3 years, Fujimai had learned to sense when chakra was being used nearby her. She couldn't sense things in fine detail, but she could tell by how the chakra felt when it was being used. Sensing chakra, Fujimai looked around and saw a well-sized rhino walking across the desert from the jungle. She saw it, and she blinked in surprise when it walked right over a part of the desert that she knew for a fact was made out of dry quicksand. Instead of sinking, it went right over it. How are you doing that? I already tried to use what I learned in the jungle, and my feet still sank. Fujimai saw the creature doing something impossible to her. She looked at its feet, and she tried to hone her senses to see what was going on with her mind. She couldn't get a proper read on the chakra, because the rhino was constantly changing how much chakra it was using, and it wasn't keeping a singular fixed amount like it would if it were climbing the tree. That was impossible. To use chakra, you needed to maintain a fixed amount of chakra in order to properly make use of its altering properties. But maybe I'm wrong? Fujimai spoke as she looked at the rhino, defying her logic. She was in a dry quicksand desert, after crossing a giant animal and dinosaur-filled jungle, while on a giant island that was hidden from the rest of the world. Whatever logic there was in the world, it wasn't on this island. Logic was unlogical and reason was unreasonable on this island. Like that rhino's chakra, she needed to be flexible and changing to match the island. Fujimai nodded to herself, and started to walk out into the desert. She sank into the sand. Wah! Fujimai fought her way out of the sand by using the vines that she had tied to her waist, and tied onto the cactus she was using as shade. Okay, she needed to learn how to walk on quicksand, it would seem, because just having a changing amount of chakra in her feet seemed to be the wrong answer as well. Like with climbing the tree, she needed a fixed amount of changing chakra, so there was a little logic to what she was supposed to do. She needed a balance that she wasn't getting right now, so it would seem that she was going to be experiencing even more difficulty in her life now. -2 years, 7 months later. I did it! Fujimai screamed at the top of her lungs as she crossed the desert, finally on the other side of it. It took her nearly 3 months to get down the trick to walking on the sand, but after that she still had a lot of trouble. For starters, she needed to be constantly using her chakra, which was a massive drain on her chakra reserves. She couldn't survive in the desert at night very well, so every day she ended up running as far as she could into the desert for much of the day. Then was the issue of her reserves. She could only run while she had chakra, or she would die, so when she got to the halfway point of her reserves she was required to turn back and exit the desert. It took 2 years of her life in order to train her chakra reserves to become large enough so that she could cross most of the desert with only half of her reserves. It took nearly 3 years, but after so much time and effort she had finally managed to use only half of her chakra reserves when crossing the entire desert. Miles and miles of land, crossed in a single day, now that she was strong enough to make the trip. She had a twinkle in her eye. It took 5 years, but she was finally at the forest surrounding the base of Inari. She had surpassed the halfway point. I've outgrown my clothes, if you could even call them that at this point. Fujimai looked down at her practically naked body. The shreds of her clothes were gone at this point, and her body had changed over the years. Her once 9-year-old body had matured. Her baby fat was gone, replaced by a trained body that had little body fat at all. She had a petite figure still, but she had developed a lot considering the fact that she was 15 years old now. She was a budding woman near the end of puberty at this point, her life on the island having given her the body that athletes would be jealous of. Later that day. This is fucking impossible, and I hate everything. Her day went from great to absolutely shitty in a few hours. The mountain was impossible to climb for her, the side of the mountain was hard to stick to with her chakra. She tried to walk up the side of it, but the mountain was just too smooth and moist for her feet to stick to it. She tried for hours and hours, but she made zero progress at all in that time that she spent. She was tired and hungry, and to make it worse, growing out of the side of the mountain on the about 20 tantalizing feet off the ground were some delicious-looking berries that had her mouth watering. Her diet of apples, small animals, fish, and other vegetables that she had found growing in the jungle left her with a strong desire to eat a sweet berry. And another fucking monkey. She also hated monkeys, because she watched as a fucking monkey climbed up the side of the mountain and went straight for the berries. She could feel it using chakra, and it was using it exactly like somebody would use it to stick to the tree. The moist rock didn't seem to trouble the monkey in the slightest as it went straight for her, in her mind, berries that she deserved after her long trip through the desert. Fine, I learned to walk on surfaces from a tiger, and learned how to walk across quicksand/water from a rhino. Come on, monkey bastard, show me your secrets. Fujimai slammed her ass to the ground as she watched the monkey with an analytical look. She would figure out how the monkey was doing this, then she was going to steal its technique for herself. She honed her senses and paid extra close attention to detail on what the monkey was doing. Nothing. It wasn't doing anything special at all, it was using the exact same skill as the monkeys and animals in the jungle. At least, it wasn't doing any different from what she was sensing at the very least. Looks like I need to refine my chakra control even more, make it even better than it is right now. Fujimai muttered to herself as she prepared herself for a long journey. This was going to be a bitch to deal with, but she was going to master this just like she had overcome every trial that was before her. This was a challenge no different than the jungle or the desert. Actually, her goal was right before her. Her future master was at the top of the mountain, her goal was right here. -4 years later. She couldn't see anything. She was in the clouds now, literally, as she climbed the mountain using nothing but the tips of her fingers and toes. She couldn't walk up the side of the mountain with her feet, that wasted far too much chakra. She learned something hard: no matter how much she trained, there was a limit to how much her chakra could grow from simple training. She had grown so quickly at first, but now her chakra was growing only very slowly from training. Using her feet alone to climb was too chakra taxing for her, even when she refined her chakra control to the point that she could climb the mountain. She couldn't see, and she was freezing. She was so high that it was harder to breathe, and she was freezing cold. She could no longer go up and down the mountain. She had been forced to dig holes in the side of the mountain when she wanted to sleep for the night. She wasn't just climbing up the mountain, she was also forced to climb down the mountain just so that her body could adjust to the light air. Even now, had just started climbing back up again after climbing up and down 12 times today alone. At this point, she would kill herself then give up. She had spent nearly 10 years now on this island. She was no longer the 9-year-old little girl that had come to this island thinking this would be easy, find the master and learn. Now she was a fully grown adult, 19 years old and no longer maturing anymore. Her body had completely filled out, from her athletic waist to her still petite body looking rather young still. She was barely over 5 feet tall still, shortness was in her genetics, but she had filled out with a modest chest now. She had refined her chakra control to a point that she couldn't be compared to her old self anymore. She was a master of her body. I'm not going to give up. This mountain isn't anything but another challenge. Can't breath? You don't need something like air cold? Don't be you can handle a little cold. You're not some helpless cat. Fujimai chanted to herself as she pumped herself up. She took a deep breath, and when she breathed out, she let out a breath of heated-up chakra to warm herself. She had learned that she could change the very properties of her chakra, not just turn her chakra into elements for Jujutsu spells like using it to create fire. When she changed the very base nature of her chakra, instead of just making fire, she could use a lot less chakra by converting her very chakra itself into the element of fire. She could use even less chakra by only heating up her chakra. She spent most of her life on this island. She was getting to the top. Her middle finger, when she reached up, didn't touch mountain. Instead, she was surprised when her finger curved and touched different ground. She blinked and inched her hand up, wrapping the rest of her fingers around the top. Pulling herself up, Fujimai found her head above the clouds and saw that the entire top of the mountain was smooth, as if it had been sliced off at some point. She saw a waterwall. She saw training grounds. She saw gardens. She even saw a house that was in the middle of it all. She saw signs that somebody was living up at the top of the mountain. After nearly 10 years, she made it to the top. Fujimai couldn't believe it. After nearly 10 years, here she was standing behind the master of Senjutsu Island, the one who lived atop Mt. Onari itself. The ancient, wise, and powerful sage of legends, also known as a god of shinobi and sages. She recognized his red spiral on his back, a spiral that only his disciples wore to show that they trained under him. Only 3 sages in living memory were allowed to bear his clan symbol on them, students who had managed to come to Mt. Onari and survive the process, and himself considering he wore the symbol. She didn't know how many people had trained with him before recorded history. The Senjutsu master predated history itself with his age, humans, yokai, gods, demons, all species of the planet, and he was older than all of them. ZZZZZ. The legendary Naruto Uzumaki. ZZZZZZZ. He's asleep. Fujimai was instantly a little let down when she heard the sound of him snoring as he meditated. Apparently he had fallen asleep at some point. She nervously shifted around as she thought about if she should wake him up or not. She knew that great and ancient beings would often spend a lot of time sleeping, and didn't often like to be disturbed from it. Wow, you're pretty much naked. I love the leaf bikini. Eep. Fujimai yelped when she heard a young girl's voice from behind her, and she saw a girl that looked like Naruto walking out of a shack with a basket of clothes. The girl seemed to be 10 years old, raven hair with skin just a shade lighter than Naruto's own. She had a perfect copy of his face, and very bright blue eyes, as well as his whisker marks. Not to mention, a personal issue, but despite being 10 years old, her body was more developed than her own had been at that age. Why did a 10-year-old girl had a freaking B, maybe small C cup? She wore a black training shirt, and short black pants as well with mesh around the neck, the pants cutting off at her shins. Heh, scared ya? Sorry, Papa is asleep, he gets bored waiting for dinner. You're really pretty, so let's get you some decent clothes while Papa sleeps. The girl stated as she gestured for Fujimai to follow her with her head, her arms filled with the laundry that she had finished and collected. Himawari Uzumaki, I'm Papa's daughter by flesh and blood, if you couldn't tell. Himawari introduced herself as she started to walk towards the main house. Fujimai felt a little awkward. I didn't know the great sage had a daughter. You look just like him. Fujimai was now feeling a little self-conscious. She wanted to make a great first impression, and to do that she needed to make a good first impression on his daughter. Yeah, other than my hair, I've got Mama's hair, I think. Himawari stated with a forlorn grin that only lasted for a moment. With her foot, she opened the sliding door to the house. Please wipe your feet. Papa built this house with his own bare hands, and he has to rebuild it every couple of 100 years when it falls apart. We don't get guests a lot. Himawari stated to Fujimai as she scraped her own feet off at the door. Fujimai marveled at the craftsmanship for a moment. It was really a nice house, and she could tell that it had been recently built. I'm Fujimai, thank you for your generosity. Fujimai was surprised the girl was so. Every couple of 100 years? Oh, how old are you? Fujimai asked as she looked at the young girl. I don't know, my body is still the same age as the day I stopped aging, and my brain never finished maturing either, so I guess you could say I'm still young. If we're talking age in years though, I'm only 23 years younger than Papa is. Himawari didn't give away her age so easily, it would seem. She placed the clothes basket down and clapped her hands together. You're going to be Papa's student for a while, so I'll show you to your room. Himawari placed her hands on her hips and smiled at Fujimai. It really had been a while. The last time they had company was a couple 100 years ago, when that monkey child came to train under her father. Thank you for the hospitality. Fujimari bowed to Himawari. Oh, don't bother with that. Let's walk and talk, here are some ground rules. Himawari walked upstairs with Fujimai following her. Fujimai looked at the walls, and she could see that this house was pretty modern for a house on the mountain. The air was warmer than on the side of the mountain, and she noticed very carefully that there were books on the walls instead of photos of people. Rule 1. I do the chores. Chores are the only thing I have in this world to do, so don't do them. I do the cooking and cleaning, so don't even think about stealing my work from me. Himawari told Fujimai firmly. She was bored all the time, and doing chores took her mind off her boredom. Thinking about what to cook for the day, filling the rest of her time either playing with her papa or doing random chores, was how she lived. It was something she did even before she was immortal, and until she died of whatever cause, she could keep doing this. Okay, yeah, I mean sure is using this room okay, it says Boruto on the door? Fujimai asked as she was allowed into a room that she believed that she would be using. The room was small, but decent for a single person to stay in. It had a desk and a bed, and that was it to start with. She looked and saw a closet that was open, and it had old clothes inside of it. Himawari rushed over to the closet. These will do for now, I'll make something in your exact size later. Himawari grabbed a white kimono and took it from the closet. Fujimari reached for it, but Himawari pulled it away from her grabbing hands. You aren't touching this with those hands. I don't know when the last time you had a proper bath was, but you smell ripe. You're extremely pretty, but you're not wearing these nice clothes until after your filthy body is cleaned. You can use the bathroom downstairs. You're too dirty to enter the hot springs. Himawari gave her body an up and down glance. Fujimai blinked and smelled herself. I don't smell anything wrong though. Of course you don't, your nose blind to your stink. Now go on. Rule 2, the pecking order. Himawari put the clothes on the bed, and she started to push Fujimai down towards the stairs again. While pushing her, Himawari started to strip the grown woman naked. Despite being smaller than Fujimai, Himawari seemed to have some superhuman strength in her body, and her body wasn't even super trained or anything. It was like her superhuman strength was just natural, and she didn't need to train for it. Let me guess, it's Master Naruto, you, and then me? Fujimai stated, already knowing where this was going. Huh? No, it's Papa and then everybody else under him. I'm just getting you ready, so you can make a good first impression on Papa. I'm not going to be taking part in your training, I can't really do anything like that. Himawari spoke with a giggle. She might be immortal, but she never trained in senjutsu or ninjutsu like her father. She never once had an interest in being a ninja, so her father never forced her to train like one. Even after so many years, she just didn't feel the need to train that hard in anything other than chakra control and some light taijutsu, that or activating her Byakugan. Fujimai was soon naked and pushed into the bathroom, a room that she had gone nearly 10 years without entering one. She looked and saw the bath was already full of hot water, so Himawari seemed to have been planning on taking a bath herself after finishing with the laundry. But you're the great sage's daughter, you've got to be able to at least destroy the moon or something. Legend stated that the great sage has so much power that he could wipe the planet out of existence without exerting himself. Fujimai couldn't believe that his daughter was stating that she was weak. It didn't make sense for such a powerful man to have a weak daughter. She had to be joking about her strength. Himawari giggled again. Well, yeah, Papa could easily do all that, but just because I'm his daughter, doesn't mean I inherited his power. All I inherited was his strong Uzumaki chakra and a powerful life force and my sexy looks. Himawari slipped a small joke in there at the end. With a 10-year-old body, she could be hardly described by anyone as sexy. Though, she was still confident that she was a pretty girl, just not sexy. Fujimai sensed Himawari's chakra, and she was stunned to realize that while her chakra reserves were extremely potent and large, they were mostly untrained as well. But what if somebody attacks you to get at the great sage? You've got to be able to protect yourself. Only an idiot would try to piss off Papa. Anyway, I didn't say I was helpless, I'm just not strong like Papa. I can defend myself if I have to. Himawari never claimed that she was super weak, or anything. If she wanted to, she could kill most people with just a poke of her finger. She could send her own chakra directly into people's heart or brain and kill them. It would be as easy as breathing for her. She could kill, she just could not be compared to her father. Minus 15 minutes later. Oh, this is great. Fujimai had not had this in years. Her body was clean, actually clean now. Her skin that was toned and athletic was now flawless as well now that she was out of the bath. Her hair was light and fluffy, no longer matted down with sweat and dirt, but her white hair was once again pure like the fresh snow. For the first time in years as well, she was wearing real clothes again. She had a white kimono that went down to just under her butt. Him kimono is a little revealing. Eep. Fujimai didn't know how Himawari was able to sneak up on her so easily. It was like the girl, when she wasn't making herself known, wasn't even there. She smelled something absolutely delicious smelling, and she looked and saw the kitchen connected to the living room by an open section. She could see a metal pot that was filled with a bubbling soup, and several plates laid out at the table. Real cooking. Her saliva was overflowing as she smelled something she hadn't had since she was a small child. It had been so long since she had real cooking that she didn't even remember what it tasted like. Ooh, food's ready, this is going to be good. Eep. Okay, it ran in the fucking family, because Naruto was awake, and somehow had managed to get behind her without her noticing at all. She didn't even sense him, and his chakra was so powerful that it seemed impossible for him to hide it at first glance. Yet, even standing next to him, she wasn't sensing his chakra, as if he were somehow cloaking it at the moment. Papa, you're awake, this is Fujimai. She climbed the mountain. She already took a bath, so can her training start tomorrow? Himawari asked her father as he took a seat at the table. She even introduced Fujimai to her father while she was at it. That rang a bell in Fujimai's head. I'm Fujimai. I'm pleased to study under you, master. I pledge to study the wonders of chakra and senjutsu to the best of my abilities if you take me as your disciple. Fujimai shouted at the top of her lungs, heads firmly at her sides as she gave off her best shout. She looked at Naruto, who seemed startled by the sudden shout, covering one of his ears and blinking. If you'll have me, of course. I'm ready to start the first step of my training. Fujimai spoke in an inside voice. Naruto blinked again. Sure, I'll teach you, but you've already completed the first few steps of my training though. Naruto told her as Himawari set a bowl of hot soup in front of him, and then in front of herself and Fujimai. Fujimai, who seemed stunned. Huh. I mean, the first step of the training was learning how to climb trees with your chakra, and training your legs to jump from tree to tree. You learned how to output chakra to your feet and keep a steady flow. Then, you trained your stamina and ability to change your chakra flow, by running on the sand, training your chakra reserves, physical stamina, and your athletic ability overall. Naruto explained the first two steps of her training that she already completed. Fujimai's jaw just dropped even more when she heard that. What? I'm so sorry? You also learned survival skills, advanced chakra control, and you've honed your instincts via the survival training. That was all just by crossing the jungle and desert. Climbing the mountain took your stamina and physical abilities, and pushed them to the limits while putting you in a low temperature, low oxygen area while also forcing you to refine your chakra control even more and learning how to conserve your chakra. Most of all, the training has been pushing your determination. Naruto explained to her as he started to eat. She didn't honestly think that she was just going to start her official training now, did she? But I learned how to do this from animals. Where do you think the animals on the island learned it from? Himawari asked as she pointed to her father, Fujimai's head snapping between her and her father instantly. What? Yeah, thousands and thousands of years ago I gave the animals chakra, and trained their ancestors in how to use it. As time went on, the animals gained the ability to use chakra the way I showed them by instinct. What? Naruto asked as he looked at her with a raised eyebrow. She didn't honestly believe that it was simply luck that she was always surrounded by animals that somehow knew what she needed to learn. All the animals on the island were descendants of the animals that he had showed the tricks to. Fujimai was still stunned. A smile worked its way on her face. So everything I've been learning your teachings? Fujimai had already been receiving training from the great sage, even before she realized it. She had not only been getting trained, but every single trial and challenge that she had surpassed had been a challenge that he had given her himself without her knowledge. All of her failures weren't for nothing. 10 years. She had tried, and failed some more, for nearly a decade now. Most of her life she had been suffering from loneliness, and the harshness of the island. It had all been for a real purpose. She was now far stronger than she was when she got to the island. She now had the strength needed to be called his disciple. I'll go and find the balloons for tomorrow after dinner. Himawari knew how her father taught his very few disciples about the most advanced form of chakra control of all. Balloons? Fujimai thought about that, before she tried the soup, and the flavor exploded in her mouth. She hadn't tasted real food for so many years, that the mere taste of such good cuisine was enough to bring her to tears. All of her pain and suffering, this warm and kind meal alone was enough to tell her that she had truly succeeded. This first meal as Naruto's disciple was all the reward that she needed for all the pain and suffering that she went through. It was simple, and it wasn't being given to her as a reward either. but the tastes in her mouth were such a reward all on its own. Balloons? Yes, you need balloons for the next step of your training, and let me tell you, this training will be like nothing you will experience anywhere else. You've learned tree climbing and water walking, and you've gained advanced chakra control over the course of your training. Naruto started with a grin on his face. Fujimi waited. He liked to be dramatic, because he waited another second. I've already mastered my chakra though, Fujimi told him, and he snorted at her. No, you haven't, because you're going to be learning the ultimate form of chakra control starting tomorrow. Yeah, you have advanced chakra control, but this training will teach you the highest possible form of chakra control, Naruto promised her with a challenging grin. This entire time you've been on the island, you've been training your control and your chakra reserves to make you strong and skilled enough to even attempt this training. I've had students in the past. Only one student who had come to this island has ever finished the half of this training, and even he failed to attain the mastery needed to complete the training, Naruto explained to her with his challenge now fully laid. Balloons, Fujimi stated to him. Balloons, Naruto repeated to her. To achieve the ultimate level of chakra control, I need to use balloons? Fujimi asked, just to make sure that she was getting this correct. She wasn't sure how balloons could be used for such an advanced form of training. It seemed unlikely for her. Balloons, Himawari chimed in and confirmed. Fujimi took an awkward sip of soup. How hard could training with balloons be? Balloons. Water balloons. Water balloons? Yes, now pop it. Naruto explained to her everything that she needed to know from him. Naruto held a small water balloon in his hand and held it out to her. Fujimi looked at the water balloon in his hand, and she blinked when the surface bubbled for a brief second, before the water balloon popped. The water covered his hand and dripped onto the ground, giving her no time to analyze what he had done. Now figure it out and do it for yourself, Naruto explained to her with a grin. Fujimi found a water balloon in her own hand moments later. How? Fujimi had no real hints on how she could pop a balloon the way that he did. She could easily pop the balloon with her chakra, by forming a Ujutsu spell inside of it, and popping it that way. That wasn't the right answer though. She could tell that she had to do it the way that he did, and that she was required to use nothing but pure chakra control. You didn't explain anything though. Fujimi couldn't learn how to do something, if she wasn't taught about it. Okay, your body has to go ga, and then bam, to burst it. This training is something you have to learn with your body, or the training is pointless. When I learned it, my own master didn't tell me anything, Naruto explained to her with a rather neutral look on it, no grin, just seriousness. She looked at the water balloon in her hand for another second, before back to him. What is this supposed to do though? Fujimi had pretty much mastered chakra control. Well, he could explain that to her. Techniques, not just chakra techniques, but all techniques that require energy, can be broken down into manipulation of energies. Shape manipulation and form manipulation, also called elemental manipulation. Naruto clapped his hands together, and Fujimi jumped in shock when she felt a surge of chakra, and a wall made of earth came out of the ground and formed next to her and Naruto. She looked at the earth wall, and she could feel that unlike earth techniques, he didn't just manipulate the earth, he created it. He created the element of earth out of nothing, with it only looking like he manipulated it. Whoa, Fujimi was impressed that he had managed to do that with zero charge time, perfectly, and creating matter out of chakra. Earth style, mud wall for example, I changed the nature of my chakra into earth, and I manipulated the shape of it into a wall, Naruto explained to her, as he crossed his fingers in front of him. Poof. Shadow clone jutsu, I divided my chakra and gave my chakra flesh and blood bodies, perfect copies of my own. Naruto clone spoke as he wrapped an arm around the original body, who just nodded his head to the clone. Hey handsome. Naruto made a show of touching his clone's cheek, and the clone vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving only the original Naruto behind. Amazing. Fujimi had sensed that. He had truly divided himself, it wasn't an illusion in the slightest. He had created matter out of nothing, a second version of himself that had all of his skills and abilities. If this training would allow her to do something like that, something as amazing as splitting herself, then all of it would be far more than worth it. This training is the ultimate form of shape manipulation. There is no higher forms of changing the shape of your chakra than this training. This training is broken down into 3 steps, and once you complete all 3, you will become a true master of manipulating the shape of your energy. Naruto explained to her the value of the training, while still not giving her any hints about how to complete the training either. Naruto crossed his arms and looked down at her, the massive difference in height making him need to strain his neck to look into her eyes. She nodded her head slowly, letting his information sink in. What is the benefit of this though other than shape mastery? Whenever you use a technique, some energy will always be wasted. This training not only gives you shape mastery over your techniques, but it also makes it so that you never waste even the smallest amounts of chakra on shape. Not only that, but this training unlocks a great technique, Naruto told her as he turned and started to walk away. She blinked. Wait, you're not going to stay and watch? Fujimi thought he would stay with her and watch her training unfold, but he was making it seem like he was really going to just tell her what to do and make her figure it out herself. It was as if he was really just not involving himself with her training more than he needed to. Naruto glanced back slightly. No amount of hand-holding will help you here. You either do the training yourself, or you don't, Naruto explained rather harshly. She grimaced at the harshness, but nodded her head. How hard could it be? -2 years later. It was hard. Out of everything, this was the most impossible challenge that she had been faced with so far. Every day she worked her hardest, until she was out of chakra, to try and pop something so simple as a water balloon. When she wasn't training to pop the water balloon, Naruto was making her meditate in order to focus her mental energies and increase her chakra reserves even further. She learned that there were two main ways to increase chakra reserves: physical training and spiritual training, and while she had increased her chakra as far as it could go with physical training, she could still increase her chakra reserves further with spiritual training. Come on, spin. The water balloon in her hand rotated and flattened, but it didn't bubble on the surface or pop like it did when Naruto did it. She had figured out that she was supposed to rotate her chakra into spirals, but the fact remains that a spiral was one of the hardest shapes to turn your chakra into by nature. She could manage a single spiral, but whenever she tried to create multiple spirals with her chakra, she could always fail to do it. The sheer number of spirals that she needed to make her simply impossible for her. Shape manipulation. No wonder Naruto told her that this was the hardest form of it. The very action of creating so many spirals of chakra in the palm of your hand went against the very nature of a person's mental capacity and energy chakra. The technique required you be able to not only constantly channel energy, but rotate that very energy into a spiral, while also doing the same thing with many more spirals at the same time. It felt wrong. This technique went against nature itself. It's pissing me off so much, but damn if this isn't impressive, Fujimi stated with a tired grin as she looked down at the object of her ire. She knew exactly what she needed to do, she had figured that out, but knowing what to do and doing it were different things entirely here. She heard a giggle, and she looked up and saw that Himawari looking at her. Oh, sorry, don't mind me, I'll just let you figure out what you're doing wrong, Himawari stated with a wide, prankster's smile on her face. She was doing something wrong. I'm supposed to make multiple spirals to burst it. I'm not doing anything wrong, I just can't do it, Fujimi corrected Himawari, who just giggled again and looked down at the base of Fujimi's hair. A strange place to look, but she didn't think much of it for that matter. No, you're training to pop it the same way Papa popped it. That's how I have to pop it. I have to rotate it the same way that Master rotates it, or the training is worthless. Fujimi watched as Himawari jumped out of the tree and landed next to her. The girl was happy most of the time, so the smile on her face was not out of place. Yeah, you have to do it like Papa, but you aren't supposed to do it like Papa. Your spiral is different than Papa's spiral, Himawari explained to the woman. Himawari extended her hand out too, and allowed her palm to face upwards. Fujimi watched a single spiral of chakra appeared in Himawari's hand. This is Papa's spiral, this is how it spins. Himawari showed Fujimi the spiral. I'm doing that though. Fujimi created a single spiral of chakra in her hand. It's more of them I can't do, Fujimi reminded the girl. Himawari created another spiral of chakra, and this spiral was different. It was spinning in the opposite direction to the first spiral. It was the exact same as the spiral from before, but the simple direction it was spinning was different. This is your spiral. No, I'm doing it like Master, Fujimi argued against the girl, since she was making the spiral the same way as Naruto was, like she was supposed to. Himawari rolled her eyes though, before she pointed to Fujimari. This training doesn't just teach you how to master shape manipulation, it also teaches you to master your own body a little. Your body is different than Papa. The way your body naturally wants to spiral its chakra isn't the same. You have to spiral your chakra like Papa does, but you have to do it in a way that your body likes. Try spinning your chakra in the opposite direction. Himawari helped out with some more advice. Honestly, she felt bad that it was taking Fujimai this long to figure this out on her own. She was a great student. That was the problem though, she was trying to copy Naruto to the letter. She wanted to do things exactly the same way that he did them, which was holding her back too much. Her own stubbornness and determination was preventing her from attempting to find a new solution to the problem. Pop. What the fuck? Fujimai popped the water balloon, shocked that she did so, and she looked at her hand. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? Fujimai looked at Himawari and pointed at her hand, stunned that she had managed that. After 2 years, she popped the water balloon. Clapping sounds? Good job, Fujimai, you completed the easiest step, you popped the water balloon. Though Hima, you need to let her figure these things out for herself. Papa, you just forgot to tell her what her spiral was. Himawari told Naruto, and Fujimai looked at Naruto with startled eyes when she tried to see if he had indeed just forgotten to explain something to her. If it was that important, then he really should have told her what her spiral rotation was, so that she could actually succeed in her training. Naruto paused for a moment. What the fuck? Fujimai questioned with a dropped jaw. Not really, I believe that you would be able to figure it out on your own in time. I expect my disciples to be able to overcome every challenge, be they challenges I give them or challenges they give themselves. Now, on to step 2 of this training. Naruto explained to her as he reached into the back of his pocket, and Fujimai waited with excitement in her eyes, all over her face as she waited for what she was going to be given. 2 rubber balls. Fujimai blinked and pointed at them. But I just popped balloons. Right, and these are rubber balls. Rubber balls? Yes, rubber balls, and what you're going to do is this. Naruto took one of them and held it out to her so that she could see what he was going to do. The surface bubbled more violently than the water balloon, before she saw the rubber ball pop more violently than it. There was no water inside of the rubber ball this time. Pop the rubber ball. Pop the rubber ball? Yes, the rubber ball this time. Naruto was patient with her need to question his explanation. He gave it to her, and she frowned and looked up at him when he shifted, getting ready to go and relax at the house. Have fun, Fujimai, and no helping her this time, Hima. Naruto explained to his daughter as he beckoned for her to come with him. Himawari hummed and followed after him. You're not going to stay for this step either? Fujimai asked him with a very small frown. You've got to learn this on your own, it's my job to guide you. I gave you the tools you need, and told you what you need to do. Once you complete this step, and then next step, I'll be taking a more active role in your training. Naruto stated to her, leaving her zero option but to nod her head obediently. Fujimai just looked at him with want. I'm going to impress you, I'm going to make you look at me with pride as I complete every step of your training. Fujimai promised herself. When I complete my training, tell me stories about your past, Fujimai whispered under her breath, not having the courage to outright come and tell him. She didn't see Naruto smile. So, this is the mortal who brought about Momoshiki-sama and Kinshiki's demise. I must say, your power is just as impressive as Urashiki's power readings stated they were. Your very existence in this dimension changed its universe power rating from below a 10 all the way to above a 16. Listen, Otsutsuki, let's skip the usual I'm a god, fear me as I and you stupid mortal shtick that you gods always do, and let's get to the fighting part. Naruto stated as he rubbed the back of his head. He had heard all of this before, be it from Kagaya stating his chakra was massive, Momoshiki calling him a real monster, to Kinshiki stating his power was greater than that of entire universes. He was used to this clan of alien gods praising him, while also insulting him and proclaiming how superior they were to him. He was irritated when he sensed an Otsutsuki approach the planet, or at least begin to approach the planet. Don't think I'll underestimate you, Uzumaki Naruto. I don't have the raw physical strength of the planet splitter Kinshiki, or the ruler of absorption Momoshiki, but I'm not a member of the main family for nothing. A man with white skin and light gray hair spoke as he tossed aside his white cloak and revealed a muscular body underneath it. He had a single horn coming out of the back of his head and curving to the front, and his eyes were pure white with veins already bulging around them. Naruto rolled his shoulders. You know, I've got to be careful from what you Otsutsuki have told me in the past. My chakra is so large my existence alone causes cracks in space and time. So really shouldn't play around here, so why don't you tell me your abilities, and I'll kill you? Naruto asked seriously as he started to mentally power himself up. Every few hundred years, a member of the Otsutsuki clan would get brave enough to come to this dimension and try and steal his chakra from him. It happened rarely, but because that it was an annoyance to him to have to fight them all the time to protect this universe. It was a thankless job, but somebody had to do it. I am Genshiki Otsutsuki, and a mere mortal doesn't get to make demands of me. There was the arrogance, he had been waiting for that. Foolish gods, thinking they were so much better than mortals. It was usually sickening. Naruto jumped towards him fast enough to quickly force Genshiki to react seriously, holding up his hands and blocking a quick punch that would have been fatal to him. God's recreation of memory. Naruto jumped back and dodged as several black balls appeared around Genshiki, all the while allowing his body to burst into golden flames with black markings, his eyes changing golden with cross marks, and whisker marks becoming black bars. Naruto watched as Genshiki's body burst into blue flames, and the black balls all started to turn green in color. You've copied Tonari's abilities from my memories. Tonari was a strong opponent, but you know he's an opponent I've already beaten. Naruto watched as Genshiki summoned forth a giant golden sword of pure energy. The sword shot up into the sky and pierced the clouds themselves. That's his moon-cutting sword. Good thing this isn't Earth, that would be bad. Naruto commented to himself. Genshiki swung the sword. His sword cut through 2 moons as it descended from the heavens and raced towards the planet they were on. You haven't fought an opponent like me before. No, you're copying the abilities of an opponent I fought. I blocked this attack when I was 19. You honestly think I can't do it again? Naruto jumped and floated in the air, raising his hand up and blocking the massive sword with a single hand. Naruto laughed a little when Genshiki seemed shocked that Naruto blocked the first sword, before he formed a second sword with his other hand and swung it down at Naruto as well. Seriously, Tonari could split moons and Genshiki could split planets, and I was physically stronger than both of them. You think something like this is honestly going to be able to hurt me? Naruto blocked the second blade with his other hand. An arm of chakra formed out of Naruto's stomach and raced at Genshiki, but his opponent had enough skill to drop his transformation and rush into the sky. God's recreation of memory infinite. That is a danger to me though, so I'm not letting you pull that attack off. Naruto looked at the rest of the orbiting moons of the planet, and located all of them in an instant. Naruto raised his hands up, and black spheres with large white blades appeared to form above him. Naruto formed 6 of the attack, before he threw each one of them at a different moon. Tailed Beast Ball Raisin Shuriken. Naruto shouted out. There were 6 explosions. 6 moons were erased from existence just like that, and Genshiki looked down at Naruto with an unbridled rage. Without moons, he couldn't use the infinite Tsukuyami from Naruto's memories. Instead, he placed his hands together. Many portals opened up around him and all around Naruto as well. Let's see how you take this then. An omnidirectional all-killing ash bones, 1 poke and you'll be nothing but dust. Genshiki sent out thousands of bone spikes into the portals, and thousands of bone spikes started to rain down at Naruto from all directions. Chakra arms formed out of Naruto's body, large in size, and formed a shield around him of energy, preventing even a single ash bone from touching him. Shaking them off, Naruto formed a Rasengan in his hand before it increased in size as the spiraling chakra ball gained 3 more, floating around it like it was its own planet with moons. Genshiki was giving no warning when Naruto used his speed and got behind him faster than he could react. You're an Otsutsuki, so you must not be used to the healing of getting hurt, so you should enjoy this new experience. Planetary Rasengan. Naruto shouted as he slammed the Rasengan into Genshiki's back and launched him down towards the planet, a golden chakra tornado of power growing larger and larger until it covered up and destroyed an entire country's worth of land. Seems you can only copy the abilities of one person from my memories at a time. Tonari was a powerful opponent, and Kagaya had a lot of instant win moves, but you only a copy of them. Tonari could have blocked that attack with his Silver Wheel reincarnation explosion, and Kagaya would have reacted fast enough to teleport away. Naruto floated in the air and looked down at the massive destruction that his technique caused on the not-Earth planet. Good thing this wasn't Earth, so he didn't need to hold back nearly as much as he would have usually been required to hold back. God's recreation of memory is Inaji, you damn mortal, forcing me to lose an eye like this. Genshiki appeared behind Naruto, one of his eyes closed as all of the damage done to him appeared to simply vanish. Naruto thought about if he had ever seen somebody use that technique, and the answer was no, but he had heard of it from Sasuke before. God's recreation of memory. Genshiki screamed in pain as Naruto appeared in front of him, and sliced him down from shoulder to hip, separating him into 2 halves with a single palm slash. Half of his body fell down to the planet, and Naruto kicked him in the face with enough force to fling him to the broken remains of one of the moons in the sky. Naruto raised his hand up. 9 attacks appeared above his head and 8 clones appeared holding the attacks, each one a different Rasen Shuriken with a different element inside of it, or a different ability to it. None of the spheres were all that large, but the massive amount of power inside of each attack could be physically felt. Sage Art, Super Tailed Beast Rasen Shuriken. Naruto stated as he threw all of the attacks with his clones. Boom. Genshiki's chakra vanished completely, and Naruto could feel his body get destroyed by the attack that wiped out the traces of the moons from orbit. Naruto sighed to himself, before he looked towards the direction of Earth, and started his short journey to fly all the way back to the hidden Senjutsu Island. Seriously, why was he like a magnet for Otsutsuki coming to whatever dimension he was in? A few minutes later. Master, you're back already. You said you would be gone for a while. Fujimai shouted in shock when Naruto came walking out trees behind her with a bag of chips with Asian lettering on it. Naruto was snacking on the chips, looking no worse for wear while Fujimai tossed a rubber ball with a small hole in it to the ground and grabbed another one from the barrel. Naruto looked at her progress. She was making incredible progress. The last student who had got to this step of the training had taken 15 years in order to master this step. In only 3 years, Fujimai had made incredible progress all on her own. She never once asked for a hint or help. She was determined to do it all on her own since he told her she needed to. She was a determined and dutiful student, the best kind he could ask for. Went to get some chips for Hima, got a bag for me, and you too, your bag is waiting in the kitchen. Come here, Fujimai, let me see your hands. Naruto ordered her, and she started her way closer to him. She showed him her hands. They were covered completely in chakra burns from where she was increasing the density of her chakra to its limits, and both her hands and her arms were shaking from the effort of it all. Naruto looked at her hands a little more, satisfied with what he was seeing. She had quickly figured out in only 3 months the proper thing she needed to do, increasing the chakra density, but applying it in practice was a lot more difficult. Master, I'm sorry that I'm taking so long, I'm a horrible student. Fujimai apologized to him with a bow. Naruto pulled out a black marker. Actually, you're my favorite kind of student. Geniuses who are good at everything without trying, those types of students are just boring. You're an awesome student who works super hard, and that is the type of student I'm proud to allow to wear my clan symbol. Do you have any questions? Naruto asked her as he held her hand, and he shared some of his chakra with her. Like magic, all of the damage down to her hands was completely fixed, like nothing had happened that day. Naruto pulled a marker from his sleeve. He had picked it up at the store when he bought the chip bags. No, sir. You've been training hard, and you've mastered how to make your chakra more dense like the training demands. You've gotten to the point that your body can handle such dense chakra at least, but you lack focus. Naruto explained to her as he drew a small spiral on the palm of her hand, smiling down at her while he did it. She blinked. You're helping me. I'm not helping you, I'm giving you the tools to help yourself. From now on, when you attempt this training, focus your mind on this spot here. Naruto told her as he capped his marker and started to walk away again. It was only a little help, and she would still have to figure out how to do what he was demanding of her. You know, Fujimai, you might not be a genius, but you're something way better than that while training. I want you to think about everything that has led you to this point, and what has made you into the person you are today. Naruto gave her a small side goal to focus her mind on as well. She blinked and got back to training. Rah! Naruto sighed in happiness. The screams of hard work were music to his ears. The sounds of training. Master, I don't see why. Fujimai threw a punch that was easily blocked by Naruto's index finger as he knocked it to the side, and he knocked away her next 17 kicks as well as she started to chase after him and fought him in a pure hand-to-hand combat battle. No tricks, just straight hand-to-hand to improve whatever it was that she needed to improve. She could be trying to master the 3rd step of the Rasengan. Instead, after 2 more years of training with it, she was still on the 2nd step of the Rasengan. She still could not get that rubber ball to burst like Naruto showed her. You are lacking the disciplined focus of a martial artist. Those trained in taijutsu are able to focus their power far better than those who lack the mental focus of a martial artist. We're going to work on getting your hand-to-hand abilities to an acceptable level for a disciple of mine. Naruto swung his left hand. He started to swing it. Fujimai was caught off balance when his left hand stopped completely, and she was flicked in the forehead by his right hand. Either way, it felt like her head exploded from the force as she was sent flying into a stone wall that was keeping her from leaving the battlefield. He was right, she was not a martial artist, and had never really trained for it a day in her life, and she was forbidden from using senjutsu until Naruto believed her mentally ready for it, so she couldn't even use that to increase her abilities. That was a dirty trick, master. Fujimai complained to Naruto as she landed on her feet, getting herself out of the wall she was embedded into. Naruto just beckoned her to continue. Keep fighting. Right. You see, Fujimai, Hand-to-hand isn't just about overpowering your opponent, speed and strength are extremely important. You need training and focus though to be a real master. I mastered the art of taijutsu with my own master, and then I took my abilities with it even further when I learned the frog kata. Taijutsu is an art that makes your body stronger, but through practice and effort, it also increases your mind's ability to focus your energy. Naruto explained to her, as he dodged every single attack she threw. He was only using a single finger most of the fight, since any more would be complete overkill at this moment. She had zero martial artist training. Then teach me a style instead of beating my ass. Fujimai complained when Naruto tapped the top of her head and sent her face into the ground below her. She got back up with her nose bleeding and clearly dazed. Naruto gave her 5 seconds to clear her head, and once those 5 seconds were up, he flicked her again and sent her flying into the same wall, same spot, as earlier. Refine your movements, use your cat-like agility, use your small and nimble body to weave through attacks. You aren't built like a tank, you are built like an assassin, act like it. Increase your focus, increase your reaction time. Naruto continued training with her, and she rushed at him and continued to do whatever she could to complete her mission. Make the bell on his waist ring. Naruto had 2 bells on his waist, and her only goal before she could continue with the Rasengan would be to make those bells move enough in such a way that they jingled. At the moment, all of Naruto's movements were flawless and done in a way that the bells didn't so much as make a sound. She needed to force him to move in a way that caused them to ring in some fashion. It was impossible for her at her current level. Fujimai grinned. She could be sneaky and use senjutsu, very sly, like an assassin like her told her. She stopped grinning when an ungodly fear filled her being, and the mountain underneath them started to crack. She dropped to her knees, and Himawari dropped out of the tree that she was watching the spar from. Birds started to drop out of the sky, dead before they even hit the ground, their poor little hearts stopped by the primal fear. The world lost color. The entire world, all things in it that weren't Naruto, were completely black and white now. She could see the blue of his eyes though as he glared down at her. You will not cheat during my training, child. For once, Naruto was not kind to her, and she could hear disdain in his voice as she tried to take a small little shortcut in her training. It was her first time trying to break one of his rules after years of training under him, and she never wanted to do it again. "Oh, Papa! Don't do that again, a birdie hit me in the head." The feeling of death and despair, a killing intent greater than any she had felt before, stopped when Himawari spoke up while rubbing the top of her head. Color returned to the world as Naruto's killing intent was gone, and he rubbed the back of his head. "Well, guess we're grilling bird tonight. Sorry, Hima. Why don't you collect these birds and get them ready to cook? Fujimai, clean yourself up, and do 10,000 push-ups, sit-ups, and jumping jacks. Until you're done, you will not eat or step foot inside of the temple," Naruto told her as he gave her a harsh physical punishment. Should I crack space some more? That midget dragon is going to be pissed that I destroyed more of her precious gap. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in annoyance as he started to walk towards the temple. Fujimai breathed again. What was that? Papa's chakra. When a shinobi releases their killing intent, it is proportional to their chakra as well. Papa's chakra is so powerful that he is slowly destroying space and time just by existing. Usually, the universe fixes itself, but when he unleashes his power, he causes cracks in the universe's space and time. You made him angry when you tried to cheat. Himawari explained to Fujimai of where she went wrong. Even she could see that Fujimai had opened up her chakra to allow nature to step inside and boost her. Naruto had strictly forbidden her from using her tainted senjutsu until she was ready to learn it properly. Not only did she nearly break that rule, she did so when she would have been cheating during her training, and her father did not take to people who disregarded his teachings lightly. Cracks? Well, in this universe you have this thing called the dimensional gap. Whenever Papa uses too much power, the cracks form and this universe gets bigger, and that makes the dimensional gap smaller, destroying more of it as the universe expands. Papa's existence causes this universe's power to expand upon itself. Himawari explained the best she could, and she explained it well. She remembered an Otsutsuki explaining it to her father when they discovered how they kept finding this universe and fighting Naruto. Naruto's power was so great, it could be sensed from other dimensions and the universes in those dimensions. It was how Momoshiki and Kinshiki originally found him long ago, and it was how the new generations of Otsutsuki kept finding him. His existence caused the universe he was in to crack and expand, fracturing space and time just so that his existence itself could be permitted by the universe. Her father was amazing. He was a being of truly ultimate power, an existence that was greater than the universe itself, but he never used his power for evil. Is he going to stay mad at me? Fujimai's ears were pressed flat down to his head. Nah, Papa never stays angry for too long. He wants you to get stronger, but he wants you to really appreciate yourself better. If you cheat and grow stronger in a fake way, you'll be corrupted by your own power. He just wants you to own your power, and not be owned by that power. Why are you so smart? Fujimai asked the child-looking woman. Himawari had the brain of a child, despite being only a mere 20 years younger than her father, who was the oldest being on the planet. Her brain had never finished developing, so she shouldn't be capable of understanding such concepts. Well, I look like Papa, but my hair color isn't the only thing I got from Mama. Anyway, maybe you should quit. You've made incredible progress, but I don't think you'll go much farther than this. Himawari admitted with a sad expression on her face. She could see it in Fujimai's eyes. Fujimai's eyes turned to Himawari, with utter betrayal in them. I can grow stronger. I'm not done. I'll master everything Master teaches me. I can go way farther than this, and get way stronger. You've already failed though, and now that you've gotten this far, even if you do succeed in the Rasengan, you'll fail Papa's teachings. You don't have the right mindset. Why did you come to this island, Fujimai? Himawari asked the woman, the fully grown, fully matured woman who had come to this island as a mere child, and was now in her later 20s. She had spent this entire time on this island, spending more, far more, than half of her life here. Fujimai blinked. To learn senjutsu from Master, to get stronger. Why? Why? Fujimai opened her mouth to speak, but she didn't know the answer. She had forgotten the answer to that question years ago. Because, well, Fujimai had to really think about this. She wanted to make Naruto proud. No, that wasn't why she came to the island. That was part of her goal now that she was learning under Naruto. But that was not what her original goal was. She looked and saw Himawari walk closer to her, with nothing but sadness and pity in her eyes. In these millions of years I have lived with Papa, I have never once forgotten my goal. I always want to remain by Papa's side, to be with him, so that we will always be together as a family, and so that he will be proud of his daughter. I will never forget my goal, and I'll never stop striving towards that goal. What was your goal? Himawari's pity came through loud and clear, and Fujimai looked at her with wide eyes. Millions of years? Himawari had never forgotten her goal, and had never stopped striving towards that goal after so long? But I want to die. Himawari admitted to Fujimai, and her eyes were dead too. The bright and cheerful eyes that she usually had were gone, replaced by the eyes of a person who had seen everything, done everything, and was genuinely sick of it all. I want to die, Fujimai. I want to die so much that there are many times I walk to the edge of the mountain and think of ending it myself. Himawari even admitted that to her. But your goal? My Papa is stronger than I could ever be. Whenever I'm alone, the urge to die becomes so strong, but whenever I'm with Papa, I want to live for his sake. Papa is protecting this universe from our enemies who would come for it. He protects the weak and defenseless humans of this world. Papa is a hero among heroes. When I think of him being all alone, the thought of being alive with Papa makes he truly happy. Knowing that I can serve this world, I can serve my Papa, by being happy and being with him gives me strength. Himawari monologued, but her words were listened to by the Catwoman very carefully. Every single word sank into her skull, and brought her down more and more. Master does this how long? Papa lost Mama, he lost my brother, he lost everything he worked so hard to build. Papa created world peace in our world, he became the leader of our people, practically of all people. In all of the legends of heroes, his name would be the one written in gold, while everyone else would be silver. The pain I feel, Papa feels that pain 10 times greater than I feel it. I lost Mama and Big Brother. I was 10 when I was sent here. I had little to lose compared to Papa. Himawari got a little more angry as she spoke. Fujimai still couldn't remember the goal she had when she came to the island. She tried to think of it, but no matter how much she thought about it, she just couldn't remember why she wanted to come to the island in the first place. Papa's goal is to never go back on his word, to never forget, to always be a protector. Papa is a leader, a defender, a shield, a sword, and he has never lost those goals. Fujimai, I think you should leave this island, teach yourself senjutsu, start a family, become a great mother, take what you've learned here, and pass it down to others who can benefit from it. Papa has done everything he could think of to help you remember your goal. It's okay though, everybody who has come to this island has forgotten why they came here. If Papa's killing intent didn't make you remember, nothing will. Himawari's eyes held no hate or malice in them. Only sadness, and because of that, Fujimai couldn't be angry with her, and her words hit her to the core all the worse because of it. After all her years on the island, after all the strength she gained, and the skills she had mastered, After everything, Fujimai found her limit. Fujimai quit her training. She failed. Naruto wasn't having a great week. First, his student quit, a student who he had high hopes for overall. Sure, she was very lacking in many areas, and she was practically talentless. The girl had zero talent, but she was a hard worker and would achieve whatever she set her mind on through sheer hard work. He didn't care if his students had talent, skill, or ability. It was a teacher's job to give those to a student. Second, the Otsutsuki. Himawari better still be alive when I get back. Naruto floated towards Earth at a high speed. His little output of too much chakra had led a duo of Otsutsuki right to this universe. They had sensed powerful chakra. The dimensional gap served as a great outlet for his chakra, but when he used too much chakra and shrank the dimensional gap, that made the outlet for his chakra smaller, and thus made it easier for the Otsutsuki to sense this universe's location. Usually, a slip up here or there was not a problem. Bad luck though. This time, a pair of Otsutsuki had been only one universe away from him when his chakra surged, which meant that they were close enough to easily sense him. He had spent the last 3 days fighting them, and what sucked was that they weren't side clan Otsutsuki, they were main clan Otsutsuki. They were powerful Otsutsuki older than he himself was, who had absorbed and stolen the power of multiple universes each. Not to mention, as main clan members, they worked as a pair, and when the child was in danger, the parent would give their soul to them to eat. The transfer of power would multiply their power greatly, making them a severe challenge. Naruto landed on the top of his mountain and powered down. He could use chakra without attracting them, but if Naruto allowed his power to surge outside of his body or just out of control for even a second, then that would attract them. Naruto's clothes were in tatters. His left arm was heavily damaged, to the point that his muscle and bone was visible. His legs both had horrible burns on them. His chest had a hole blasted through his right lung, and blood flowed out of his mouth freely because of that unfortunate injury, and he was walking with a nasty limp because of the broken bones in his legs. Those who were horribly strong, damn, wish Sasuke was here. Taking these bastards on myself, without my teammate, not counting you tailed beasts, and me. Of course, Naruto bonked himself on the head, since he wasn't completely alone. The Otsutsuki worked in pairs when they were higher ranked, and because of that he had been fighting 2 monsters all by himself. He had spent the first 2 days fighting the 2 of them as a pair. He had spent the 3rd day fighting the Super Otsutsuki, who was the fused version of when the child ate the parent. If he had Sasuke with him, he could have taken both of them, super form or not, down in maybe 10 minutes at the most. Well, fighting these 2 had been horrible, more so because they were just a really bad matchup for him. These 2 Otsutsuki had abilities that were tailor-made to defeating him. Countless planets had been destroyed by the battle. "Yo, the midget dragon is here," Naruto complained under his breath when he saw familiar tiny footsteps leading up to the temple, small footsteps in the dirt that could only belong to one tiny person. Great, this week gets better. That midget timed this, so Naruto sighed and walked towards where she would be waiting for him. Himawari's chakra was still here. Good, his daughter hadn't killed herself. He was afraid that any time he left her alone for too long, she would do just that. "Oh, Papa. You're back sooner than I thought. I thought you would be fighting them all week." Himawari came into the hallway when she heard his footsteps, a cheerful smile on her face as she rushed to his side. She helped him take his jacket off, since she was going to repair it for him during her usual free time. She was going to wash the blood and gore off of it as well. "How did it go?" Himawari asked him with a smile on her face. Naruto smiled and rubbed the top of her head. "Well, 2 more Otsutsuki are dead now. They really got me good though. Give Papa a few minutes to heal himself." Naruto focused his chakra into his wounds, speeding up his own natural recovery rate even more. The wounds all over his body steamed as the broken bones, burns, and holes in his body started to heal. He had been in this condition for a while now, but he wanted to save healing himself for when he was back home. That way, he could continue to fight without worrying so much about anything else. Healing during battle was dangerous. It was usually safer to heal all non-life-threatening injuries after battle. It sucked and it hurt, but sadly none of these horrible wounds was life-threatening for one Uzumaki Naruto. Very few injuries could be considered life-threatening for him. Uzumaki Naruto. Ophis. The natural human-shaped dragon, the dragon god of infinite, born in the dimensional gap. The annoying midget dragon. Midget dragon, if this is about your gap, then sorry, didn't mean to make your home smaller. Seriously though, how long do you plan on staring at me this time? Naruto asked the smaller being as it. Well, as she this time. Ophis was rarely locked into a single form. She had spent 600 years as an old man once, but it seemed that she was particularly fond of the form of a beautiful young girl. Moon-like pale skin and a super petite frame, gray silvers that had little light to them, and a general Lolita theme about her. Can you put on an actual shirt? All you've got covering you is tape. No, because it arouses and annoys you. Of course it does. Naruto just sighed in annoyance as she showed her emotions in the most sly of ways. Ophis had emotions and desires, just like anyone else, but it was very hard to read it on her face. When Ophis had seen a picture of Hinata, his late wife, she had transformed into a Hinata clone for 200 years just to arouse him and get under his skin. She tried more adult forms, male, female, anything she could to try and get a rise out of him. So you're sticking with this form then? Naruto asked her as he sat down. Her form really was pleasing to the eye. Black hair was like his late wife, and her younger-looking body was just mature enough in the hips and waist to show adultness, but the petiteness of her body gave off the innocence of childhood at the same time. This time, Ophis had spent a lot of time creating the perfect body for pissing him off. The body had the perfect level of adult charm that it could subconsciously arouse a person and attract men. At the same time, the body had an annoying level of childness that made you feel shitty for being attracted to the adult charm her body had. Until you kill Great Red, grant me a child, and become mine, then I will not stop harassing you. I am this world's strongest. Only, you're really not. Trihexa and Great Red are equal to you in strength, and you're nowhere close to Melvazoa, Risatoras, Regalzerva, or Saracelbes. You're not even half as strong as Melvazoa, who is stronger than you and Great Red combined at full strength. In this universe, you aren't even in the top 5 true strongest. Naruto reminded her of her place in the pecking order. You killed Melvazoa. Incorrect. It was a member of the Otsutsuki who killed Melvazoa, ate his soul and stole his power. I just killed Garashiki who absorbed him. I tried to keep my hands out of this world's problems. People won't grow if I interfere with everything. Kids gotta learn. I just help people when they seek me out for guidance. Naruto smiled to himself at the end of his little speech. This world had humans, which he appreciated, though it took a long time for this world to get them. You protect people from these Otsutsuki. The Otsutsuki are from where I'm from, I think, so I can't let my world's problems come here and destroy this universe. I'll die before this universe becomes Otsutsuki fodder. Naruto stated his firm stance on this issue. Ophis just stared at him. Hypocrite, your students affect this world. My students came to me seeking guidance, and I just taught them how to better control their own powers. Anyway, more important than that, I still love my wife. She might be dead, but I'm still not quite yet over her. Naruto rejected Ophis patiently, and with a smile on his face. 147,000 years. That was how long Ophis had been after him, and why she was so annoying to him. It was why he was so patient with her as well, because of her dedication to attaining both silence and inner peace that she so lacked. Himawari bit her lip with some annoyance at his words. Mama's dead. She's been dead for so long. Just move on and find new happiness already. Stop suffering already, Papa. Ophis is a dragon. She won't ever age. She's stronger than any other woman on this world. She can be by your side forever. Himawari glared at her father from behind him. Her father was amazing. Her father was a monster. How millions of years since Hinata had died, his late wife, Naruto had never once forgotten about her. He had never dated another woman, he had never sought out the touch of a woman. He stayed loyal to his late wife, and never fell to temptation. She wanted to speak up so many times and demand that he chose happiness for himself for once. As surely as your existence will destroy my home, I will make you mine. Ophis knew that one day, the dimensional gap would be gone forever. Naruto's very existence was slowly but surely destroying the dimensional gap, and that meant that eventually, she would lose her home. Well, I am a shinobi, and a shinobi is one who endures. Himawari finished for him. Her father's favorite words to teach. To endure. To never give up. No matter how many millions of years passed by, her father was the amazing, loving monster of a man who had the willpower to never give up, to always endure, after all this time. It was why she could never leave him, why she needed to stay alive for him. She, his daughter, was all he had left. She couldn't be selfish and allow him to become lonely once more, to be forced to endure all his suffering as he protected this world by himself. One day, she would find a way to do it though. She wanted to find him somebody who could truly stand by his side. Genius! A Yujutsu and Senjutsu genius. She was Kuroka, the daughter of Fujimai and the elder sister to Chiron. She was previously a Nekishu who had given up her pure blood for the sake of an easier life with her sister. At a young age, she had sold her soul to a devil and became his slave. She had grown stronger under him. Soon enough, she had even easily surpassed her master in strength. It took barely any time for her to manage that, even though she had been only a young teenager at the time when she sold herself. Kuroka was far different in appearance than her petite mother. "Oh really now, another of you weaklings are fighting me, Nyahaha." Kuroka laughed as she jumped through the trees of Senjutsu Island, also known as Mt Inari by some, and raced through the giant forest to find herself her mother's old master. She was strong as she was right now, but for several reasons, she needed to find this legendary hero. A human Senjutsu master who her mother had apprenticed under, before she had quit and left Senjutsu Island forever? That was something interesting. "Kuroka, one day, you should go to Senjutsu Island like I did. I might not have completed my training, or learned master's Senjutsu, but on that island, I became far stronger and better with chakra than I could ever imagine. Surface sticking easy as cake, she taught me that as a child. You're going to need to try harder than that, kitty cat." Kuroka summoned a fireball in blue, and killed a giant cat that had pounced towards her. A battle-scarred animal that she blew to chunks before it could get any closer to her. The giant forest, the first trial. This was where her mother had learned how to fine-tune chakra control to the feet and single points of the body. To say that she, Kuroka, a genius, hadn't already mastered this would be a lie. Unlike her mother, she was a true talent. She just kept her eyes on the goal, the top of the mountain that was covered by clouds. Unlike her mother who failed, she would master everything this so-called master could teach her. The legend said that no student had ever actually completed the program. All students who studied under Master Naruto quit. Not one had ever truly succeeded in any way, shape, or form. Yet, every single student was very powerful. All those who had studied under Naruto, even the failures, ended up far stronger for it. -7 hours later. Quicksand? Ha! You'll have to do far better than that if you want to challenge me, Nyahaha. Kuroka was genuinely having fun as she used the lessons taught to her by her mother, in order to rush across the sand with practiced ease. She had learned and mastered this years ago in a matter of days, something that her mother had taken such a long time to fine-tune and master. To say that she was a genius far exceeding her mother would be an understatement. She was Kuroka the Black Cat. She was a Nekishu of the highest caliber. She was a genius. She used her flames, hotter than any other Nekishu before her, and used them to turn the sand into glass in front of her. The sands turned into a glass floor for her to walk on, not against the rules of the island at all. She was nearly out of chakra, so when she ran out, Kuroka sat down on the glass and enjoyed basking in the sun. Mother had to run back and forth every day, increasing her stamina as she mapped this entire desert of its sand. What a waste of time. Everyone knows the shortest path to your goal is a straight line. Kuroka sat down and looked at the clouds in front of her, a glint in her yellow eyes. Her eyes were the only trait that she had inherited from her mother, her yellow cat eyes that glinted with a killer instinct and seductive purr. When her chakra recovered, Kuroka stood up and started to run again, using her strategy to turn any possible quicksand into glass. Turning chakra into energy for Jiu-Jitsu was a 1-to-10 ratio aspect. By giving forth a 1 of chakra, you gained a 10 of Jiu-Jitsu. Instead of using her skills in chakra to walk on the quicksand, she would use her skills in Jiu-Jitsu in order to make better use of her chakra and allow it to last a lot longer. Unlike her mother, who had lower reserves of chakra, she was born amazing, with high pools of energy to make use of, and having her own energy greatly enhanced by the magic of the devil that had once binded her. I'm far superior to my mother. Unlike her, I've got a goal, I've got a purpose. I'm not here just to learn. Kuroka thought after a few hours of tedious running. Her mother had quit. Her mother had not failed the training. While still in her training, she flat out quit. Her mother had never told her the reason that she quit, only that she had learned something about herself that had left her unable to continue. That was weakness. Her mother had been too unresolved. She had lacked the same iron in her belly that she, Kuroka, had after years of raising her younger sister, selling her soul into slavery, and killing her own master for her sister. She, Kuroka, had ambition burning inside of her. She crossed the desert in a mere 13 hours of running across. There was the base of Mt Inari. Mother spent years climbing up and down you, working on her stamina and increasing her chakra reserves, while fine-tuning her chakra control to perfection. This smooth mountain, smoothed by millions of years of water rushing over it, is nearly impossible to get a grip on it for any but the greatest of chakra controllers, Naya. Kuroka sang to herself with a proud smile. In less than a day, she had done what had taken her mother more than 5 years to do. She had crossed both the forest and the desert. Now she only had to climb the mountain. She wasn't weak like her mother, though. Her body was enhanced by the magic of the underworld. She wasn't a pure yokai anymore. She was better, at least when it came to power. So you're Fujimai's daughter, huh? You must be a hard worker just like her. I'm sick of being compared to a woman who failed as a student, failed as a mother, and failed as a woman dying to protect that vile man. Kuroka was sick of all of the yokai who had met her mother, who she had met, always comparing the two of them. She heard a lot of it before her sister had been born, and she had lived near other yokai, and even humans. She was Kuroka. She was better than her mother, she would prove it. She wasn't some little kitten who existed in the shadow of her mother's failures. Her mother had climbed up and down this mountain, every day, for years while she mastered her chakra, expanded her reserves to their limit, and increased the strength of her body and stamina to their limits as well. This had been the last and greatest test for her mother, and it had taken over 40 years for her to complete this one task. Her mother had spent a great portion of her youth taking all these tests. Her mother had come to this island a child, and climbed to the top of the island as a grown woman. I'm better than her, though. Kuroka spoke with spite in her tone as she clawed her way into the island's mountain, and she used her fine chakra control to only send her chakra to the very tips of her claws. Her claws scratched grooves into the stone, and Kuroka began climbing, not slowing down in the slightest. She wasn't going to take the same path as her mother. She wasn't going to spend all of her time working towards a goal that she didn't have, only to quit after over 20 years of training. Her mother had spent most of her life on this island, most of her very short life here. The years her mother had spent on this island were the happiest of her life. Her mother had told her stories of her own hard work, and how every time her master smiled at her, she felt happier than anything that had come after she quit. Halfway up the mountain. I refuse to climb back down. I won't be like her. Kuroka was out of chakra. Her fingers were bleeding as she dug her claws into the stone through brute force, and since she was pushing herself forward, her chakra wasn't returning to her fast enough. If she tried to climb back down, she would be able to recover chakra and start again. She refused to do that, though, because that was the same path that her mother had taken. She was better than that. She didn't need chakra for this. She had her claws, she had her determination, and above that, she was a genius. She was going to find out a way for this to work out, so she kept climbing the mountain even as the air got so thin that she had trouble breathing. The air was cold. Her mother had needed to use her chakra to warm herself up, but Kuroka didn't need that. She had gotten so far up the mountain by sucking up the pain and trying her best to ignore the cold. In one go, she had made it halfway up the mountain. Her bleeding fingers. The warm blood that dribbled down her arms, freezing before it got to her elbows, all of it was just something she would suffer through if it meant being different than her mother. Mother, you were almost 20 when you were at this point, but I'm only 14 and I'm far better than you. In less than 2 days, I'm surpassing 10 years of your hard work. I'll succeed in everything that you failed at, Naya. Kuroka's mind was filled with the piss and vinegar of youth, her mind nothing but a single thought at the moment. She was better. She was a genius. She was Kuroka. At the top of the mountain. She was half dead. Kuroka made it to the top of the mountain, but she was in no condition to celebrate her journey. Her skin was deathly pale from the cold, her eyes were hazy and unfocused as she had trouble breathing, and her fingers were completely blood-covered as her once sharp nails had been broken down to the fingers. She was grinning, though. She couldn't speak, though. She didn't even know why she was grinning. She didn't really remember where she was or what she was doing. Her body was warming up, though, as the air at the top of the mountain started to get a lot warmer, thanks to a natural hot springs that seemed to be located at the very top. The cold freezing her body would be healed quickly. She felt warm, though. Strong, warm arms picked her up. I'm impressed. I've never had a student dumb enough, or strong enough, to make the entire journey in 3 days. You're either a dumb genius, or a brave fool filled with a single-minded determination. Well then, let's get you healed up. Training starts once your body becomes used to this thin air. The voice was filled with the same loving warmth as the arms that held her. Kuroka passed out. The scent of a real man of power. To say that Kuroka was ignorant of the fact that she was outclassed in all ways, by smell alone, was enough for her to be sure that she was looking at the right man. When she had woken up from passing out, and her body screamed at her to stay down, her eyes had roamed the room that she was in, and she saw the figure of her soon-to-be teacher leaning up against the wall with his arms crossed. He was completely still. Unnaturally still. He was so still that he seemed to stop being a living creature, and become a stone that was a part of nature itself. His chest didn't even move when he breathed, he was so still. His nose didn't even move as he breathed. Not a single part of his body moved, until his eyes moved and locked with her own. Blue met yellow. Your master Naruto? I am your master if you wish to learn from me. You cleared the island quicker than any other. It seems that you knew the secrets of each part of the island without needing to figure them out. You were trained by a student of mine, weren't you? Naruto asked her as he moved. Somebody moving had never caused Kuroka to feel more normal. The second his body stopped being more still than death, she felt like she could breathe. She could breathe more easily now as well. She didn't know how long she had been out, but it must have been long enough for her body to adjust to the low oxygen. My mother. You're Fujimi's girl then, how is she? Naruto asked with a small smile on his face. He could see the resemblance in the face now that he looked at her. She was vastly different than her mother in appearance. She must take more after her father with her hair and skin color, but overall her facial features were very much Fujimi in looks. Her eyes looked away from him, and Naruto could see the answer was plain. I see, so she isn't with us anymore. Still, she gave birth to you, and loved you very dearly to pass on what she learned to you. Naruto was a little confused when he saw some resentment mixed in with the love in Kuroka's eyes. So, Kuroka both loved and hated her own mother then? Odd. I'm Kuroka, and I'm here to become your student. Kuroka sat up, and she looked down to see that she had been undressed as her body had been changed for her. Instead of her black kimono, she was wearing a white kimono with no special design to it at all. Even the obi itself was white. You kinky old man Nyan. Kuroka tried to tease Naruto. Naruto didn't visibly react. My daughter changed you. You've been unconscious for 8 days. I've been keeping you healthy while you adjust. Naruto explained to her, and Kuroka was suddenly aware of just how long she had been asleep. How long did it take my mother to adjust? Your mother didn't need to adjust. Unlike you, she slowly traveled up and down the mountain so her body would naturally adjust. Of course, your body was strong enough to survive without the adjustments, but since my chakra is more divine in nature, it took even longer for you to adjust to being around me. Naruto explained to her, and Kuroka blinked at that. He was a human that did give off a divine aura about him, now that she paid close attention to him. Instead of her body feeling a tingling sensation or pain from being too close, she felt nothing but the warmth of his power washing her. It was kind. When can I start? Naruto scooted closer to her, and showed her a plate of rice balls, and she looked at them as his movement interrupted her speech. I don't know a lot about you, Kuroka, so let's just chat a little. Fujimi was one of my favorite students. She was one of the best, I would say. Naruto spoke with a fond smile. The way that she constantly pushed through her struggling, and never gave up, was amazing. True, she quit in the end when she realized that she didn't even remember the reason she started training in the first place. But until that moment, she was one of his most determined students of all. She failed though, Naya. Kuroka whispered under her breath. How could you have a failure as your favorite? Kuroka asked loud enough to hear, though Naruto had heard what she had said under her breath as well. He just didn't comment. Eat. Kuroka hesitated, before she grabbed a rice ball and took a bite without taking her eyes off of Naruto as he just smiled down at her. His eyes were filled with understanding, though she didn't know what he was understanding. You're very much like her. I'm nothing. She was very beautiful, determined, and she had a fire in her eyes. She passed those traits down to you. You're a very beautiful, determined young woman, and you have that same fire. It seems you are very different from her though. Fujimi never had parents, but you understand the love of a mother. It makes sense that she would teach you what she learned on the island. You are far stronger than she was for sure, though you are very different in many ways. Naruto praised Kuroka on some areas, without mentioning what else he had seen in her eyes when he looked at her. Eat, you've gone without food for a while. Kuroka ate in some silence, glancing around the room, and she saw a painting of Fujimi, her mother as a young woman, with Naruto. She saw paintings of other students as well, but she didn't know any of them personally. My daughter likes art, and she painted that. When can I start working with balloons like mother? Kuroka quickly interrupted Naruto, surprising him that she was already wanting to start that portion of the training. Naruto looked at her, and Kuroka blushed and looked away from him. I mean, master, I want to learn it, and do what she couldn't, Naya. Kuroka was far more meek when asking a second time, realizing how rude she was to her master. She looked for any traces of anger in his eyes. Eat and talk for a bit, this is important for your training. How is sitting down and stuffing my face going to get me closer to my goal? Kuroka questioned him with narrowed eyes. What kind of games was he playing? I'm learning about you. I want to know what kind of student I'll be teaching. Your mother was a hard worker, but she lacked natural talent. For her training, I gave her a task and let her figure out what she needed to do to finish it with little help. Fujimai learned best when she was being challenged. You are not Fujimai. Naruto explained to her, and those words put a real smile on Kuroka's face when they registered. She was not like her mother as a student, and Naruto was not going to just treat her like a carbon copy of her mother. I'm Kuroka. I like to take naps, and I train in senjutsu and yujutsu. My favorite foods are stuff that are easy to make. I ate a lot of instant ramen recently because it's so easy to make. Kuroka watched Naruto's reaction change to far more critical of her for several minutes, and she couldn't stop herself from shifting under his gaze. He seemed to be judging her for any lies that he could detect. Your favorite ramen? Anything with meat in it, Naya? Kuroka answered unsurely. She just liked meat without the veggies, so having it in the ramen without the veggies was what she liked. His eyes seemed to find what they were looking for, and Naruto smiled at her again. He's a bit goofy. Kuroka realized that the master seemed to be a little bit a goofball, something her mother had never told her. Maybe she never knew, or she just didn't feel it important to bring up. I see, a good answer. There are so many reasons to love ramen, though you seem to love it because you're lazy. Well, it seems I know where to start with you, and what to do with your training. Come with me. Naruto grabbed her by the back of her kimono, and pulled her up to her feet. She wobbled for a bit, but Naruto helped her get steady. He led her out of the temple, though it took a bit, but surely her footsteps became more steady until she was walking at her normal speed. I'm better than my mother, he can already see that, so there is no way that my training will be like her training. I bet he already going to be teaching me how to master senjutsu, and how to truly make use of my chakra. Kuroka grinned as she thought of all of the cool training that she was going to be doing. Naruto led her to a waterfall. They stopped, and Kuroka noticed that the waterfall was connected to the hot springs, so the water coming from it was very hot to the touch. It was more than likely the reason why the top of the mountain felt like spring, and not a snowstorm of cold. Every day, after breakfast, you are to come to this waterfall and sit under it for 12 hours and meditate until dinner. That's it? Kuroka asked him with some confusion. I'm too strong to need to do this. Kuroka reminded him of her genius. Naruto just smiled at her. You'll meditate under this waterfall every day for 12 hours, and hopefully, you will gain something from this that you are clearly lacking. Naruto told her as he started to lead her away from the waterfall. There wasn't enough time left in the day for them to start this, but Kuroka needed this training that most of his students had needed, with Fujimai being one of the rare few who didn't need this training. Why do? Kuroka, you are my student, you will do what I tell you to do. If you refuse, you will not continue training under me. I understand, Nyan. Kuroka lowered her head with red cheeks, his tone stern like a father talking down to a child. Humiliation and shame bloomed red on her face when she realized that she was being treated like a child. She looked at Naruto, and he didn't even bother looking down at her this time as he walked straight. Can I ask what lesson I need to learn at least, Naya? Kuroka asked him. Naruto glanced down at her, and she averted her eyes. He smiled. Seriously, Master is such a how do you put up with him, Nyan? Kuroka complained for the sake of complaining, though she was talking to herself as she meditated under a waterfall. The hot water, and damn was it hot, poured over her pink body non-stop as she suffered to try and clear her mind and sit down on top of the water. She wasn't allowed to use senjutsu to boost her chakra, nor was she allowed to use chakra for anything but floating on top of the water. Her body was pink because the burning water was hot enough to change the color of her skin, but not hot enough to boil her alive either. It was a horrible mix of torture and training, though the heat of the water would make for an absolutely great hot springs bath. I don't know, Papa can be pretty difficult sometimes. Nyan. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt your private thoughts. Himawari said as she gathered water from the pool before her, so that she could start doing laundry. She had an awkward smile on her face, realizing that she might have done something she shouldn't have. She certainly thought that Kuroka had been talking to her, but seeing Kuroka sink under the water and quickly swim to the edge like her life depended on it let her know that Kuroka had been ignorant to her presence. Really sorry, Kuro-chan. Himawari apologized again when she saw the woman come out of the water. She sat down on the ground and huffed. He's been having me sit under this waterfall for like 2 months. 2 months now, Nyan. Kuroka complained with a twitching face when she heard just how long she had been doing this one form of training. What could I possibly learn from sitting underwater and clearing me head? Kuroka didn't see the point to such useless training. It wasn't like clearing her mind would do anything for her, she wasn't getting any stronger from this training. Himawari just smiled more awkwardly. Papa doesn't like to explain things, because he thinks it is important for his students to understand the lessons he teaches with their bodies, or figure them out. To him, he gives the students the tools they need, and lets them learn at their own pace. He wouldn't have you do this if he didn't believe you would benefit from it, Himawari explained to the growing woman. Kuroka looked at her with a roll of the eyes. Burning my body under hot water, and sitting my cute ass down for 12 hours doesn't benefit me at all. I don't get it, but even though your mom failed her training, she still left this island way stronger than when she got here. Papa made sure this island on its own was its own form of training. Where is this island, by the way? I was only able to get here on the back of a Kirin. This is on Earth, but it's not on any maps, Naya. Kuroka changed the subject the second it got to her mother. She would have this conversation with Naruto, but she would not have it with a little girl like the one she was talking with. Himawari blinked. Wait, you don't know? I thought all yokai knew. Papa has been on this mountain. No, he created this island for the sake of protecting you yokai and humans. Where do you Fujimi? I didn't know either, now that I think about it. Himawari blinked with some shock. It's not time for your training to stop. Master, I was just about to get back to meditate. It's fine, Kuroka. The reason this island doesn't show up on any maps is that the island is sealed away. The only way to get around the barrier is to approach the island from the clouds above the barrier. If you approach it from the ocean itself, you'll just be teleported to the other side of the barrier. Naruto explained as he came out from behind the waterfall, much to Kuroka's shock when she realized he had been watching her training the entire time. He walked across the water and looked at her with understanding eyes. Though, get back to training. Naruto instructed her all the same. Kuroka blinked. A barrier. A long time ago, I raised the earth out of the ocean, and it became this island. I did this. Naruto placed his hands together, and he created a wall of earth from the ground. On a massive scale, and I requested the gods of this world to seal this island off from the rest of the world. A.K. Papa told the gods of this world if they didn't do what he told them, he would hurt them. This world's gods are very stubborn and arrogant, but this island holds a power that could end this world if I wasn't here to keep it in check. I couldn't sense anything from this island when I used Senjutsu though, Nyan. Kuroka argued, and Naruto shook his head at her. He looked at her, and he sighed, before he gestured for her to follow him, if only to appease her curiosity. Her mother never asked about the island before, but it would seem Kuroka was far more curious than the obedient Fujimi. Look, Kuroka, a long time ago very dangerous people visited this planet, and planted the seed for a dangerous tree here. They planted a Shinju, a god tree, that produces fruit that can grant a person unlimited chakra and power. You ate it. No, though the power of the Shinju is immeasurable, my power is above that. It has been ever since I was a teenager. No, I killed the ones who planted it, and cut down the tree. Sadly, it produced a fruit, and when I destroyed the tree, the fruit exploded and showered this planet in its juices, and thus humanity, yokai, and Earth's creatures gained access to extremely watered-down chakra. Naruto explained to her the basics of it. The world's Shinju was different than his own, so the chakra it produced had been slightly different as well, and thus this chakra was a little different than his own. Humanity never trained in chakra, and over time they practically lost any and all connection to it, and thus most humans couldn't use it at all, the same being said with animals as well. UI had started to use that chakra, and though it was weak, they eventually created their Jujutsu with it, and even started to learn their own version of Senjutsu. Then why protect this island at all? Why seal away this spot? Kuroka had to know why this island was so important. This island was ground zero for the chakra explosion that gave this world chakra. The chakra here is far more intense. If a normal person, or somebody without chakra, so much as stepped foot on this island, poof. Naruto made a poofing motion. It's not pretty. Himawari admitted at the horrible memories. Like meat confetti, they explode like gore balloons. For the safety of everyone involved, this island is also perfect for yokai to learn the secrets behind Senjutsu. The closer you get to the top of this mountain though, the stronger you need to be to survive the high exposure to potent natural energy. Naruto went into further detail. The journey to the top of the mountain was made to be extremely difficult, to ensure that those who made it to the top would actually survive reaching the top. Why tell me this? Kuroka couldn't believe he was giving her such a secret. It's not exactly a secret, I just very rarely have anyone to tell it to. Anyway, get back to meditating, I've got some business to attend to, so I can't watch you for a couple of hours. Himawari, can you start dinner when you finish laundry? Naruto asked his daughter, and she nodded her head with a happy smile. Kuroka just looked at the waterfall. Can I start? You'll keep meditating under the waterfall until you've both cleared your mind and figured out why I want you to meditate. Himawari, I know you like helping my students, but do not help her or give her hints. Kuroka has to figure this lesson out herself, or she will not grow. Kuroka, I will teach you nothing else until you finish this. Naruto explained to her his orders as her master. As the master, his word was absolute, and he wasn't going to have her trying to worm her way out of it. Kuroka grit her teeth, but she nodded her head all the same. Papa, you can at least explain why she needs this training, right? Himawari asked him, and Kuroka looked at the immortal child with hope in her eyes. She wanted this answer so bad. No, if I tell her anything, then it will only make it that much harder for her to complete this portion of her training. She seems like a girl who obsesses over a goal, knowing the answer will do more harm than good. Naruto told her as he started to walk away. He looked at Himawari, and she sent him a slightly suspicious look. Where did he have to go? It would be at least 3 or 4 more years before any Otsutsuki had the balls to try a direct attack on this universe. Her father had recently killed 2 of their clan who came to the universe. That alone was a great deterrent for the god bastards. Himawari looked at her father, and noticed that he was wearing a black jacket and orange pants, instead of an orange jacket and black pants. His color schemes switched between his pants and jacket only meant that he had some serious plans for something. Papa, what kind of plans do you have? Himawari questioned her father as Kuroka reluctantly got back to meditating. I've got dinner plans, so if Kuroka stays on plan, you can make her something she likes for dinner. Be a good girl, Hima, and you follow my orders, Kuroka. Naruto was soft with his daughter, but instantly stern with his student. A date. Well, since you so dearly insist, I try dating again despite the fact I'm happy with just being with my beloved daughter. Naruto looked at Himawari with a deadpan face, considering she had been pestering him for literally since the dawn of mankind's existence on this planet. He missed the days before mankind, when she never bugged him about romance or getting into a relationship. I've got a dinner plans. Of course. Himawari hugged Naruto tightly. You've moved on. Hima, I'll never forget your mother or move on from her. She will forever have a place in my heart and my memories, and I will always love her. Naruto rubbed the top of her head gently, and was sad in eyes when he saw her eyes were still lit up with glee and hope. Naruto really was happy just living his life with his daughter, and the students who came to the mountain to learn. I love you more than anything in the world, Hima, and this is something you really want, so I'll give it a try. This was for her more than it was for him. In his heart, he was sure Hinata would have wanted this, but for the longest time and even now, he just didn't want to date again. Not a single word he spoke was a lie, but all the same, this was just him trying to grant his daughter's wish. Even if it broke his own heart to do so. Kuroka didn't understand it. For 6 months she started her days the same way. She was made to meditate under the waterfall until Naruto told her that this portion of her training was over. She was to clear her mind, but at the same time figure out what she was going to gain from this training. She was sure that this had to accomplish something she was not understanding. That was weird though. She was a genius at senjutsu and using chakra. Her jujitsu skills were in a class of their own amongst most yokai. She might be stupid to most, but when it came to techniques, fighting, and chakra, she was a genius of the highest class. She could learn techniques and gain skills at rates that put her own mother to absolute shame. In her own childhood, she had gained the skills that had taken her mother 10 years to master, and she had mastered them in a matter of weeks in her youth. Kuroka, come with me. Naruto was there, watching her while she trained. When she learned that he actually watched her train from behind the waterfall, he stopped hiding and joined her in meditation as well. She couldn't imagine how boring it must be for him, since he had nothing to learn from this. He was a senjutsu master. His experience and skill with meditation and clearing his mind, body, and spirit of all ill intentions and thoughts were at their ultimate level. To him, joining her meditating had to be extremely boring, and to do it for nearly 6 months had to trying on his patience. Every day, he just sat with her, right by her side, meditating. Yes, master. Kuroka muttered obediently, not at all angry that she was getting to call it quits early for the day. She saw him wearing a towel around his waist, and he was holding one out to her as well. She blinked when she saw that despite being naked for the most part, his right arm was still surrounded by bandages that he didn't take off. She had never seen him without them before, even in his sleep he kept wearing those bandages. So Kuroka, tell me something, what questions plagued your mind today so far? Naruto asked her as he led her away, and as she walked, she took her kimono off. Now naked, she wrapped the towel around her body, covering herself enough to be considered modest while naked. Why do you meditate with me, Naya? Kuroka had to ask that question first. Isn't it extremely boring for you? She continued her line of questioning. They were heading towards the hot springs, not just the regular one that she was expected to use for bathing, but instead the private one that Naruto and Himawari would regularly use. The one that was walled off from the one she used, which was open air. She followed Naruto into the walled-off area, and she saw the water. The water was a golden color, but also greenish. It gave off a very pleasant scent. A master is expected to wait for their student to understand their lessons. Naruto answered simply with a sparkle in his eye, as if what he was saying was some kind of hint for her. Kuroka didn't understand it though, but the scent in the air was so relaxing to her that she found herself wanting to jump right in. Now Kuroka, it's rude to jump into the bath. First wash yourself off. Naruto told her as he put a hand on her shoulder and sat her down on a wooden stool next to a small stream of running hot water, with a wooden bucket in front of her. Why is the water like that? Kuroka asked him. She was being allowed to ask questions, she was going to take advantage of it. It's green tea. What? Or rather, this is the time of the year the roses bloom, so I add green tea leaves to the water. See, look at them, Kuroka, they are almost ready to bloom. It will be any minute now. Naruto told her as he showed her the flowers at the edge of the water. She noticed that the hot springs rose bushes growing at the side of the walls, and all of the roses were closed. Naruto sat at the edge of the water, and allowed his feet to soak, and when Kuroka finished washing herself off, she joined him. They're just flowers though. Kuroka didn't understand why she was doing this instead of training. These roses I breed here are some of the most beautiful in the world, but for them to grow on this mountain it takes months for them to bloom, and their lives as roses are short. They work so hard to be at their best, ever patient as they absorb nutrients from the ground. These roses that struggle to survive only get to show their beauty for a short while. Naruto showed her, and he placed a hand on her shoulder and gestured to one of them. Slowly, it started to open. It went from a boring-looking bud, and it, along with many of the other roses, started to open their petals in unison as if by a chain reaction. These roses were the most vibrant shade of red that Kuroka had ever seen, and the way that their red petals were reflected in the golden/green water below them, as the smell of roses added to the scent of tea and honey, Kuroka felt her mind get put at ease. They're pretty. They are. Naruto agreed with her, and he sank himself into the water. Green tea baths are not only good for the roses, but they help to detoxify the body as well. It eases the mind, heals the body, and allows us to reach a more relaxed state. Naruto explained as he got into the bath, and he gestured to Kuroka to join. She did so with far less suspicion than before, now more relaxed as she just watched the rose petals gently be pushed around by the wind. They spend all their lives preparing for their deaths. No, a rose spends its entire life waiting for the day it can show how beautiful it is. These roses that struggled, I think they are the most beautiful ones. Naruto just watched the flowers, and he poured himself a cup of sake. He didn't give any of that to Kuroka, considering her age and the fact he himself didn't believe she should drink until she was at least 20, but he enjoyed the sweet taste of it. Kuroka leaned back and sank deeper into the water. She looked at Naruto's eyes and saw his blue eyes reflected the gold of the water and the red of the roses. Both colors conflicted with his eyes beautifully, and her gaze was drawn back to the roses. She worked so hard to get to this point, to become a beautiful rose, and still failed as a stew. Kuroka stopped talking when her thoughts went from the rose to her mother, and she looked at Naruto in the hopes that he didn't hear her. He glanced her way, and he smiled. Fujimi didn't fail, not really. She had a daughter who she passed all her skills down to. She herself might have failed, but she knew that you had more potential than her. I have no doubt, whenever you mastered something that took her years, she felt nothing but pride in you. Your mother was happy you were better than she was, that you could do things she couldn't. Naruto didn't need to be there to guess what Fujimi must have felt at the time. Seeing your child able to do something easily that took years of effort for you, that was a feeling he had personally experienced, and any loving parent would feel nothing but pride and adoration for their child. Fujimi would have felt blessed that she birthed such a child. And here I am resenting her. And there isn't anything wrong with that either. Naruto interrupted her, and Kuroka was shocked by that words. There isn't? There was a time, I thought I was going to die for my son, my daughter, my village. I figured I would be resented by my children for dying, but so long as they could grow up happy, and live, I was happy with that. If you want to resent your mother for dying, I'm sure she would forgive you for it. You still love her? Naruto asked Kuroka as he turned his head lazily, still smiling, and looked down at her as she blushed. She nodded her head. Of course, but she was horrible. She fell in love with my father, an evil man. He didn't care about her at all, he just used her. We can't help who we fall in love with, not all love stories happily sadly. Fujimi fell in love, and though her love didn't return her feelings, I know she was happy to have you and your sister. Naruto explained to her. Kuroka frowned. But parents love their children, Kuroka. It's what we do. Your mother made a mistake. That mistake was not loving your father. That mistake was picking him over you and your sister, the only thing she did wrong. Naruto spoke of her mistakes as well, and Kuroka was surprised that Naruto also acknowledged her own point on the matter. Before now, Naruto had only been explaining to Kuroka where she was wrong, or where she needed to learn. Now he was agreeing with her? You agree? Fujimi loved you both very dearly, but if a parent must choose between their lover or their child, they should pick their child. Fujimi was a great student, and a loving mother, but she wasn't a perfect mother. You are well within your right to resent her for what she did. Naruto explained how Kuroka was right and wrong. But? Kuroka asked, wanting the other side of the coin. No buts, she nor I will fault you for resenting her. I love both my parents dearly as well, but I can't say I didn't resent the mistakes they made. You can resent something a person did, or some part of them, and still love them a lot and respect them. What do you respect about her? Naruto asked Kuroka, and she had to think about it for a second. Kuroka thought about it as she stared at the roses. Mom was she sucked as a mom, but she tried her hardest to make me and Chiron happy when she could. Seeing her try and fail and only succeed after many failures, she always seemed so strong to me, but also so weak too. I wanted to be better than her at everything. If she took a year to learn something, I wanted to do it in a day. Kuroka whispered as she sank so low into the water that only her head was outside of it. The scent clearing her mind the closer she got to the water. Naruto smiled wider. I see. What traits did she have though, that made you feel so weak and inferior? You have a superiority complex, but yet you can never escape from her shadow. A shadow that only you see. Naruto pressed deeper into her mind. Kuroka spoke before thinking about the answer. She wasn't answering Naruto's question either, she just spoke. She's a failure, but hearing those stories of how hard she tried, how long she worked, how could anyone ever be so strong to work so long on something? How much patience could a person have? To work so long and have nothing at all at the end. She spoke proudly of her time here, but she was a failure in the end. Why is a failure like her so proud? Kuroka spoke without nagging even once during the entire speech to herself. Her eyes tearing up in anger as she clutched her knees to her chest. She was shaking. You envy her. I'm better than her. You admire her skill. I'm far more skilled. Naruto and Kuroka weren't having a conversation. Kuroka was having a conversation with herself as she answered back her own statements with the truth. The conflicting thoughts in her mind came out, and so did the tears as well as she looked at the roses. They lived their entire lives, becoming beautiful, just to die. You know, Kuroka, I lied about these roses. I planted these roses when you arrived on this mountain, and I figured out what kind of girl you were. Naruto stated, stopping Kuroka from speaking to herself, and she looked at him in shock. She didn't expect him to lie to her, but he rubbed the top of her head with a grin. This is why you've been meditating, you've been waiting for this day. Every day, I had you training to clear your mind, because I knew you would never understand the lesson if I just simply taught it to you. You're too thick-headed for that, so I decided to plant these roses to teach you what you were missing, what Fujimi had that you envied so much. Naruto explained as the two of them returned their gazes to the roses. What she had that I don't? Kuroka asked him. Why did she ask? Clearing your mind is impossible for you, Kuroka, or at least it was before now. I purposely gave you a task that you would never achieve, no matter how much you trained. You've too much pent of feelings to ever clear your mind and heart. Now you've spent 6 months struggling to do something. You've been a failure for 6 entire months, just like your mother. Kuroka smiled at his words, before she jolted when she realized she had smiled. Naruto's lips stretched into a smile. She was so strong, because no matter how much she failed, she kept trying. I've never failed at anything. I'm a genius who achieved everything easily, but for 6 months now I've been struggling just like her. I'm not a genius, I'm just like her. The reason everything is so easy for me is because of her. Kuroka realized no, she didn't realize it for real. This was something that she had realized a while ago, but she refused to admit before now. Looking at the roses in front of her, hearing Naruto's words. Naruto stood up and gestured for her to follow him. Kuroka followed him. They walked until they got back to the waterfall that she had been training under, and Kuroka looked at it as Naruto gestured to it. You've been struggling like your mother, you've attained the very thing that you loved and hated about her so much. You now understand the difference between you and your mother, how your genius was only possible because of her hard work. Kuroka, clear your mind and meditate under the waterfall. Tell me what this first lesson was about. Naruto gave her a gentle order, and she walked on the water and back to the hot waterfall. She didn't even feel how hot it was as she sat down, and took up a meditating position once more, the same position that she had been taking up for 6 months. She closed her eyes. Her mind was clear. Patience. The patience to keep working, to keep failing but also keep trying, as you attempted to reach a goal. She, a genius, had never had to be patient before, as she just attained everything in short periods of time. Her mother, who worked herself to the bone and to near death itself, had been so patient that her determination had been refined to a point that even as a child, Kuroka couldn't look at her mother as anything but strong. Despite how weak her mother had been, she had still been so strong to her. She, Kuroka, had gained the very same strength that her mother had. A strength that she had never even thought of as strength before, but could only now appreciate for what it was worth. The strength to keep failing until you succeeded. To think her mother went through such harsh training. The first step. When Kuroka had been given a balloon of water and told to pop it using nothing but her chakra, she had been showed how to do it and allowed to figure the rest out for herself. With her fine chakra control and her nature, she had been able to figure it out for the most part. She figured out that you have to inject a lot of mini spirals into the balloon in order to make it pop the way that it had been showed. At the same time, making a single perfect spiral had taken her a good bit of effort that she had taken days of training for. The first step had taken Kuroka 5 weeks of non-stop training to accomplish, and according to Naruto, she had taken far less time than her mother in that step. The second step. The rubber ball with no water in it, suffice to say, it was a lot harder to make something pop when it had liquid in it. Not to mention the thick walls of the rubber ball just didn't want to pop, they morphed to the shape of the chakra inside of it far too easily. This training needed chakra so intense that it was visible easily to the naked eye, and chakra dense enough to cause pain to the user, as well as damage them if they weren't trained to handle it. Her own hands were covered in dense chakra burns from where she overloaded her chakra into her hands, something apparently she was suffering worse from than her mother, who had far weaker chakra than she herself had. Pop. Well done, Kuroka, you've actually managed the second step with this. You've come farther than even your mother did. Naruto congratulated her for her achievement. Well done. She was only the second student to have ever come this far, though before her not a single student had ever actually managed to complete the third step of this training. Yokai just weren't in tune with using their chakra in this kind of way, so this training was far harsher on them than it was for those who were more used to using chakra in its raw form. Yokai almost never used raw chakra, they literally almost always, converted it into Jujutsu or some kind of elemental attack. It was never pure chakra alone, so for Kuroka to achieve the second step within 8 months of training was truly something he would call genius of her to manage. The only other student to achieve the second step took 29 years to manage what she managed to do in 8 months. It hurts a lot, Nyan. Kuroka's hands were bloody from what she had managed to do, her burns had reopened from popping the rubber ball, and they were bleeding freely. So how many more steps, Naya? Kuroka asked Naruto, and he looked at her with a curious eye. Well, for the incomplete version, only one more step. The incomplete version is powerful, and is ranked A in difficulty. The complete version has 4 more steps though, and is ranked at S in difficulty, the highest rank in my ranking system. Naruto explained to her. He was only expecting her, at most, to complete the third step before he went on to teaching her actual senjutsu, though, the reason that she came here. When the third step was completed, usually, one's physical and spiritual energies were more harmonized and control over both of them would be far more natural. Being able to control physical and spiritual energy in equal amounts was something that senjutsu users really needed to have mastered in order for them to balance them with nature energy, fuse it with their chakra, and form senjutsu chakra in perfect amounts. For yokai, senjutsu came to them naturally. They were not perfectly balanced though, so they succumbed far more easily to the negatives of senjutsu. While in this world, you didn't turn into an animal or turn into stone, the world still punished you for not mastering or balancing senjutsu, by causing you to lose control of yourself and become drunk on power. 4 more steps. If you want to undergo that level of training, sure, 4 more steps. That level of training isn't needed to start you on senjutsu though. As you are right now, I would say you've become balanced enough to start senjutsu training, but completing the third step would really be best. Naruto admitted her readiness. If she didn't want to complete the third step, and go right on to Senjutsu, then he would start her training, and that once she had recovered herself enough that she could be healthier when she started. Learning the Rasengan opened an entire new world of attack possibilities. It was a supreme technique that could be blended perfectly with any style of combat. It had offensive and defensive abilities, support abilities, and it was only limited by the creativity of the user itself. For any Senjutsu user, the Rasengan was a dream come true with how versatile it was in all of its uses. He even used it for cooking on occasion. "I'll do the third step." Kuroka looked him right in the eyes. Naruto tossed her a balloon. It was a simple balloon, not a rubber one. It was the water balloon, but without any water in it at all. Kuroka popped it. "Don't pop it. Combine the first and second step together. Use all of the power of the second step, but combine it with the fine control of the first step. If you manage to master the third step, this is what your goal should be." Naruto held up another balloon, figuring the hot-headed student would pop it right away. He showed her the balloon, before he showed her his other hand. A yellow sphere of chakra appeared in it. It was beautiful. Kuroka could see an uncountable number of super condensed spirals inside of the sphere. The sphere was absolutely perfectly round, and she looked at the balloon, and she could sense chakra inside of it. Yes, the surface of the balloon never once moved or made any bumps at all, showing the absolute control of chakra required to control so many precise spirals inside of it to a single, controlled ball. It is like you are controlling something uncontrollable. This technique is contradiction itself. Kuroka was seeing two extremely opposite forms of chakra control being used together. Uncontrollable power, and extremely fine control, being fused together. This technique was worthy of being called A rank in difficulty of learning, by Naruto's standards. The very act of using this technique required you to maintain and create both wild spirals, and control those wild spirals into a perfectly controlled shape. To manage this was something that should be impossible. It was forcing your body to create and maintain contradicting forces within itself, projected outside of itself, while maintaining control of it as if it was still inside of itself as well. Seeing the end goal of the first three steps, Kuroka could feel just how far one would need to come in chakra control in order to master this step alone. Even where I came from, only a handful of people knew this technique. My father created it, and it took him 3 years. He taught his master and his student. My master taught it to me, and I taught it to my disciple who taught it to my son. This technique isn't just a technique. This technique represents a bond. This is the bond between father and son, master and apprentice. If you learn this technique, you will truly become my apprentice," Naruto stated to her with a soft smile as he looked at the technique, the entire history of it. He had many students. The only person he had taught this technique to, who had actually learned it, was his own disciple Konohamaru, who became a famed jonin who served him faithfully while he had been Hokage. The man he had trusted to look after his own child, his rival's child, and the child of a villain, and teach the trio of them. Those who mastered the Rasengan were destined for great things. Minato Namikaze, creator of the Rasengan, went on to become the fourth Hokage and became feared by entire nations. A man who could slay entire armies in a blink of an eye, in a flash of yellow, and a skilled user of Senjutsu. Jiraiya, Toad Sage of the Sannin, who was feared as a ninja who it would take an army to defeat, a powerful Senjutsu user though not a master. A man who had been considered for the role fifth Hokage, and man with a successful spy network that went through the entire elemental nations. Kakashi Hatake, a man who was feared in the bingo books, a ninja who was greatly respected by the nations and famously cut lightning itself in half, and copied over 1,000 techniques. A man who had become the sixth Hokage, even without his Sharingan eye to aid him. A highly skilled and feared ninja in his own right. Naruto Uzumaki, the most powerful ninja in history, who created world peace and saved the villages countless times, and even the world many times. Only one other shinobi in history could rival his fighting ability, his only rival, and if he fought every single ninja in the world by himself, he would win hands down. A ninja who had become the seventh Hokage, and lead the entire world into an era of peace and prosperity. Konohamaru Sarutobi, a powerful and elite shinobi of the Sarutobi clan, one of the strongest ninja of the Hidden Leaf Village, a ninja who had the potential to one day be the next Hokage of the time when Naruto handed down the title. One of the very few ninja capable of handling the title. Boruto Uzumaki, a genin with the strength and skill to rival even jonin-level ninja, a natural genius, and had assisted in the death of an Otsutsuki by dealing the final blow. His potential had been great, with skills far surpassing the average ninja even at a young age. A Banda technique can be a Ban Nyan? Kuroka looked at the technique. It had such a powerful weight to it. It was more than just a technique. Yes, this technique isn't just an attack, it's a bond that is forged between master and apprentice. All those who have learned this technique have the potential for greatness, because they carry with them the will of their master and the masters before them. The weight behind this technique is immense, and if you master it, that weight will fall onto your shoulders next. Naruto's Rasengan started to grow. It became the size of a basketball. It became the size of a car. Kuroka watched as he held the growing technique above his head, as the light grew more intense to the point it was harder to look at the growing sphere. The immense power inside of it was so great and dense though that she felt her skin tingling. Her jaw dropped when the technique continued to grow in size until it was even larger than Naruto's house, and he smiled down at her. That it's impossible, I can't even sense how much power that is. This is the power that could destroy this planet. Right now, I'm holding above my head an attack with enough power to blow this planet to pieces. This isn't even the full power of this technique. The Rasengan is a technique that has no limits, and that infinite potential is the weight that those who learn this technique have to carry with them. Naruto told her as he shrunk the Rasengan down as he allowed the technique to very safely shrink down to a manageable size. That was equal to the size of the Rasengan that he had created for his son Boruto to wield when he dealt the finishing blow against Momoshiki. A technique that had next to an unknown planet, in an unknown universe, with an explosion so large that it was larger than a moon. An explosion so large it would have wiped out an entire planet if it hit. Of course, he had wielded power even greater than the power he was showing Kuroka for a long, long time, since he was about her age. He just never had a chance to use 100% of any attack he had ever, considering if he ever used a 100% attack it would spell well doom for wherever he was. That's heavy, it's really heavy, Naya. Kuroka was both awed and shocked by the very fact that she had been standing in front of something so amazing. She had just witnessed a power greater than anything she could imagine, greater than even the Dragon God, or the top 10 were capable of. It was a technique that was not only immensely strong, but had such a heavy history behind it that it was hard to quantify just how large it was. You teach this technique too? Nobody has mastered this technique. Of all of the students who came to this island, not a single person has ever managed to master it and become my true apprentice. I've had many students, but since being stuck on this world, I've tried to teach this technique to all who come here, so I can find myself a student who will become my apprentice, a person I can truly pass down all my teachings to. Naruto ended the Rasengan, and he held his hand down to Kuroka. She blinked. She was sitting down, but she didn't remember sitting, she had been standing. When had she collapsed on her butt? Was she that floored by the weight of the Rasengan that she just couldn't stand in the presence of it? Can I really? Am I worthy? Naruto smiled at her. If you learn the Rasengan, then you will have to prove you're worthy of it. As my student, I'll beat into your head everything you need to become worthy of handling this weight. Naruto told Kuroka with gentle eyes. She took his hand. So this is an Otsutsuki. To say that Ophis was impressed was an understatement. Seeing an Otsutsuki battle was something that was beyond her comprehension. She had never imagined that she would be able to see a level of battle that was beyond her ability to keep up. She knew there existed being stronger than her, though the fact that there existed an entire race of gods, where even the weakest of their species was stronger than she was something that she found both frightening and incredible. I am impressed to think you've been fighting them alone for such a long time, Ophis stated as she watched Naruto fight. Well, she sensed him fighting. What she saw was a planet being turned into a wasteland as mountains were created and destroyed in the blink of an eye. Every time fists collided between the monsters she was sensing, the world's landscape was changed as the punches and kicks created and destroyed all that surrounded them. She was floating above the ground, simply because the ground hadn't stopped shaking since the start of the battle. A glint of steel. She saw as a vast army of Fuma shuriken rained down from the sky above, and she looked up to see Naruto floating, and she looked down to see the red-skinned Orge that was Naruto's enemy, injured and on the ground. There had been two Otsutsuki, but when they had started to lose, one of them had eaten the other and gained an ultra-powerful form. A mere human shouldn't be able to defy the divine. No being can challenge the gods. Don't you know Otsutsuki Nishiki, shinobi are greater than even gods? Naruto shouted as his army of Fuma shuriken rained down on him. Ophis saw the ground turn into lava from the speed that Nishiki dodged the Fuma shurikens with as he peeled away the earth beneath him. Each shuriken transformed into a clone of Naruto though, and Nishiki summoned a red glowing sword, and started to do battle with untold masses of clone Narutos. He created a second sword, and swung both at the same time, and the entire planet split in half. Ophis' eyes widened when she realized the planet had been split in half by the sword swings. Red Wheel Reincarnation Blades, far superior than the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion used by the lesser Otsutsuki. Nishiki unleashed his ultimate trump card as Naruto slammed to the ground and rushed him. Well then, come! Nishiki swung his swords. Naruto charged his fists and swung them. The two were evenly matched. The planet-splitting swords were stopped by Naruto's fists, and the damage that they could inflict on the planet was completely transferred into Naruto. The planet itself started to separate slowly as the two halves began to drift apart from each other. Cracks started to form on the surface of the planet as the two monsters continued to exchange blows. Lava burst out as new volcanoes were formed. You think I can't go further than this? I am Nishiki Atsutsuki. The main clan might think you are a serious threat, but I'll show them I'm greater than they are. Nishiki reached towards his face. He tossed his sword aside, using his other sword to defeat himself against Naruto's attacks. He teleported behind Naruto as both of his eyes transformed into Rinnegan, his sword switching places with him. He can use the same jutsu as Sasuke with his Rinnegan. He was holding that back. No, it takes a good deal of his chakra. He's gathering all of his chakra. Naruto could sense the building of an ungodly intense chakra as Nishiki reached up towards his face. He plucked out his eyes. Mountains started to float as gravity went insane. The planet ripped itself apart and formed smaller planets as the two halves of the planet turned into perfect spheres. Ha! These eyes will only get in the way, so I better replace them with better ones. Nishiki tossed his eyes away and opened a portal above his hand. 2 replacement eyes fell from the portal. The eyes were clear and blue, and he pushed them into his empty eye sockets as his eyes steamed over, the new eyes transplanting into his skull. The red god turned blue. His skin gained a fierce, flaming aura about it as a third eye opened up on his forehead. His regular eyes were blue now, and he gained a chakra cloak similar to Naruto's own, only blue. Those were Tensigen great. This just got worse for me. Naruto created a Rasengan in his hand. Nishiki appeared behind him and created a red bow of chakra, pulling back the string as a single black arrow formed in his hand. Naruto jumped away from Nishiki and created a second Rasengan as he unleashed his arrow. His one arrow exploded into 1,000,000 arrows that changed directions to quickly surround Naruto from all sides. Naruto used his Rasengan as a shield and knocked most of the arrows away from his body, though an arrow pierced his shoulder, his thigh, and one of them went right through his stomach. He didn't so much as grunt as pain even as blood escaped his lips, having expected himself to take a few hits from the arrows. One of the arrows disappeared as Nishiki appeared where it had been, and he opened his mouth and bit down on Naruto's shoulder. He ripped a chunk away from his skin as Naruto grabbed him by the skull and threw him. So this is the level of your enemy, Ophis whispered with a small smile on her face as she watched Naruto struggling. Still, Naruto fought. He grabbed the red sword from the ground, and he ran towards Nishiki as the man slammed his foot into the ground. Gravity changed again. This time mountains ripped themselves out of the ground and were thrown towards Naruto as he became the core of what they were attracted to. Naruto took the sword in both hands and slashed the first mountain apart, jumped through the remains and kicked the second mountain, shattering it as well as he got closer to Nishiki. Nishiki had his second volley of arrows prepared and ready, and they were launched as beams of energy that destroyed all the remains of the mountains. The arrow beams attracted to Naruto as well as he dodged and slashed them apart. Just die already, human. Sorry, but the human spirit doesn't die so easily. If today I die, then I'm not going to let you have your fun with it. Naruto threw the blade at Nishiki. Nishiki teleported to the blade the second that Naruto threw it, so that he teleported to Naruto again. He had his bow trained on Naruto's face, as the two of them floated in the air with a massive barrage of arrow beams still going towards Naruto. You can't dodge at this distance. He shot Naruto in the forehead, and Naruto grinned as the red sword behind Nishiki transformed into the real Naruto. Lesson number 1, Nishiki, and that lesson is that never assume that I'm the real me. Naruto created a technique that Ophis had never seen Naruto use before. Naruto held a miniature sun in his hand, a sun that had infinite spirals inside of it, and great wind blades coming out of the center of it. Ophis could feel a great heat coming off of the technique, so great that the air that touched the blades of the attack was set on fire. Nishiki transformed his bow into a red blade, and Naruto kicked him in the shoulder. Sage Art, Lava-style Rasen Shuriken. Nishiki Atsutsuki dodged the attack, even at point-blank range, by teleport and switching with one of arrows in Naruto's body. Fool! Nishiki transformed his sword into a bow, and took aim at Naruto's back. Naruto grinned. He flicked his hand backwards, throwing the lava-style Rasen Shuriken behind him, instead of in front of him. A hand of chakra formed out of Naruto's back and chased after Nishiki and the Rasen Shuriken. You're the fool, Dodge the attack after I throw it, not before I throw it. That's your second lesson. Want to know your third lesson? Nishiki teleported to the last arrow in Naruto's body. Lesson learned, and this time I dodged after you threw it. Nishiki took aim with the finishing blow. Naruto moved to the side. Nishiki was cut in half with the Raisin Shuriken went flying from behind Naruto, Naruto's chakra arm pointing towards Nishiki as Naruto grinned. Lesson 3. Predict that your opponent will predict what you will do. Since your first teleport, I figured you can only teleport to your own weapons, and when you only teleported to each arrow once, I figured you could only teleport to any given attack once. Naruto grinned, and Nishiki looked around and saw the lower half of his body destroyed as the Raisin Shuriken consumed it in an explosion. He growled at Naruto. He took aim with his bow still. Die. Nishiki stopped with his eyes widened when Naruto grinned at him, and pointed at the ground, and his eyes instantly followed the path of his finger. He was punched in the face when a second Naruto appeared and slammed his fist into his face, and then another Naruto appeared. Thousands of Narutos started to appear as they took turns attacking him and sending him flying higher and higher towards the second planet that had formed. His upper half was beaten into a bloody pulp as he used nearly all of his chakra to just survive the beating he was getting. His bow and arrow vanished, his weapon just disappearing completely, and the blue cloak of chakra vanishing from his body as he slammed into the second planet in the sky. Fine, I'll just use the chakra I've been stealing from his during the fight, in order to heal myself. Nishiki thought as he slyly pulled a red fruit out of his sleeve, and he raised it towards his mouth. Naruto sensed him about to eat a chakra fruit. Naruto grinned when Nishiki ate the fruit. Lesson 5. Don't suck chakra out of a sage when they are in sage mode, and this is 6 sage mode. Felt you sucking out my chakra this fight. I've been giving you my nature energy, not my chakra. I had a couple hundred clones sneaking away and gathering nature energy for me. During this entire fight, they transferred nature energy into me, for me to give to you. Enjoy the taste of 500 Naruto's worth of nature energy. Naruto sensed the change happen to Nishiki instantly. His body transformed into a toad statue as his body was overwhelmed by the nature energy that he consumed, and in his weakened state, a power that he was unable to control. Overwhelmed by it, his transformation into a toad statue was too quick for him to even feel himself change. Naruto's clones all popped, and Naruto landed on the ground next to Ophis. The planet that Nishiki's exploded, as Nishiki's chakra no longer controlled the gravity on it, and the chunks started to fall down towards the planet Naruto and Ophis were on from above. This was an educational experience. Ophis raised her hand and destroyed all of the chunks of planet that would have rained down on them. Naruto looked like he was in pretty bad shape. Dates aren't supposed to be educational, they should be fun. Anyway, the fact you followed me and opened a portal up here is really stupid. You could have died, midget dragon. You won't get another date at all if you keep doing this. Naruto groaned and sat down, feeling the pain of his wounds for real now that the battle was over. His wounds started to heal quickly, but that didn't mean he wasn't sore all over his body. That battle had been going on for days, and Ophis had been quite happy watching him getting the stuffing kicked out of him as the Otsutsuki ignored her. I was in no danger. Join my Cow's Brigade, Naruto, become my lover, kill Great Red, do these things. Also, take me on another fun date. No, maybe, no, and sure, but next time let's just go to dinner and a movie. What the hell is the Cow's Brigade? Naruto realized that Ophis had mentioned something odd at the very beginning of that. I formed a group to kill Great Red, since you won't do it for me. Of course you would listen, just don't get innocents involved with your plans, okay? Whatever hate boner you have for Great Red, I don't want innocent humans and yokai getting involved in any of it. Do that, and at the very least, I won't interfere. I've got a promising student right now I want to focus on. Naruto saw Ophis open a portal into the dimensional gap, and she beckoned for him. If they went into the dimensional gap, she could open another portal to his home, a shortcut that wouldn't involve flying through space. Let's go. I look forward to next time. If next time is like this time, I'm not. Kuroka needed something to drink. No, she didn't need to drink some booze and get drunk, and she wasn't depressed or anxious about anything in particular. She just needed a glass of water, that was all. She had exhausted herself from training all day, and she had gone to bed without drinking anything. Mouth dry from sleeping with her mouth open, she woke up with the desire to hydrate herself and get rid of her case of cotton mouth. Everyone should be asleep, better be quiet. Himawari is supposedly scary when she's angry, not sure how she will take being woken up. Kuroka thought as she looked at the sleeping Himawari, since the girl was sharing a room with her at the moment. Naruto was reconstructing Himawari's room, since the floor finally rotted out and gave away. This was a common thing. While the house looked old on the outside, Naruto was constantly replacing things that got old and fell apart. Whenever a room deteriorated too much, Naruto would take that room down and rebuild it from scratch. Apparently, at least, this was Kuroka's first time seeing it, since apparently the last time a room was rebuilt was 23 years ago. Mama. Kuroka nearly jumped when she heard Himawari say something, and she looked down to see the girl with a saddened look on her face, but thankfully she was still asleep. Kuroka just tilted her head in confusion, before she shrugged her shoulders and moved silently out of the room. The house was quiet and peaceful. Though, there was a scent of sweat in the air, a thin smell that only a yokai's nose like hers would pick up. She didn't really recognize the mixture of two scents that much, and it was extremely subtle, even for her nose. That meant that the sweat was very light as well, not even something caused by a light workout. It didn't matter though. Kuroka left the house as she went towards the pond where she would get her drinking water. She was thirsty after all. Master. Kuroka froze when she saw Naruto sitting outside, shirtless and wearing only pants, a towel over his shoulders. He was just sitting there, relaxing with his feet in the water as he looked up at the moon. She noticed he was sweating only a little, and he noticed her, and he secured the towel around his neck more firmly. Kuroka, you should be asleep. I woke up thirsty, master. What are you doing out here? Aren't you tired, Naya? Kuroka asked Naruto, since he had been working hard all day fixing up the house. He didn't even make clones to help him, he just did it all by hand, by himself. He made the task take way longer than it should, when it could have been finished in such a short time. Naruto grinned. I'm a little tired, sure, why don't you join me? Naruto asked Kuroka as he pat down the ground next to him, and Kuroka blinked at the open gesture. Let's have a conversation. Am I going to learn a lesson? Not tonight. Well, you might learn stuff, but it won't be a lesson or anything. Me and my master had conversations all the time when he was alive. Sometimes we talked about his dreams, or mine, we just talked. So let's talk, Kuroka. Naruto grinned wider at her. The moon was full, and the mountain top was well lit. The water itself was calm, reflecting everything above its surface like a mirror. Kuroka sat down next to him, and placed her feet in the water. Sea cold. Haha, it's kind of cold, yeah? So tell me, Kuroka, do you have any dreams? You came to this island to surpass your mother, and you've reached a stage in your training even she never did. You're better at senjutsu than her, and you're stronger, you've even made progress in the third step. Do you have a goal that drives you? Naruto asked her curiously. He was her master, but he wouldn't pretend that he was all-knowing. He didn't know all of her secrets that she held in her heart, he wanted her to open up about them herself. Kuroka thought about it. Well, I want to change things. I'm a Nekishu, my mother was a Nekishu, and my little sister is a Nekishu. We're a super rare breed of Nekomata, there are hardly any of us. I still haven't surpassed my mother in everything yet though, Naya. Kuroka admitted, and Naruto looked at her with a raised eyebrow. Oh? Well, since coming here, I've come to realize Mom really loved us, but she wasn't a great mother. She was the best she could be, but she made a lot of mistakes. She fell in love with a horrible man, and she loved him more than her children. I want to surpass her in love as well, but I need to be much stronger, Naya. Kuroka smiled as she thought about her changed dream. No longer did she want to surpass her mother out of spite or resentment. She still felt a ton of resentment towards her mother, but no longer did she feel the same burning feeling she had felt before. Now that she had learned under Naruto, and learned of what her mother had gone through on the island, she came to understand her mother. Well, now, surpass her in love, you say? Naruto was more curious about how Kuroka viewed her own statement. I want to become stronger. I want to find a strong mate, and I want to have strong children that can be the new Nekishu. I want to become a greater mother than my own ever was, and use my strength to protect my kittens. I'll bring glory to the Nekishu, and well, I have another dream, Naya. Kuroka spoke proudly, before her voice started to shift, and her cheeks turned a little red. She closed her eyes when she felt his hand on the top of her head, rubbing between her ears well enough that it got a purr from her. She enjoyed the feeling. That's a good dream, to protect and care for your sister. Huh! Kuroka was shocked when he figured out what she had been thinking, without her saying it. Your eyes tell me you miss her, that you want to go to her and teach her, reconnect with her. Of course, she's with the devils like you were. You, a criminal, would be killed, so you need to get stronger in order to be with her. You're a good girl, Kuroka. Naruto praised her gently as he continued to rub the top of her head. Kuroka let out a small whine when he stopped rubbing her, and she leaned towards him and pushed her head into his arm. Naruto leaned forward. Kuroka tilted her head and straightened up. What about you, Master? What is your dream, your goal? To train young students who wish to be trained, to pass down my knowledge and experience to them, so that they can do great things. I also want to save Himawari as well, I guess, so I need to find a true apprentice, somebody who I can pass down the ultimate transformation to. Naruto told Kuroka with a grin on his face. Kuroka blinked. What? I'm not just a sage, Kuroka. I'm a sage who has access and mastery over 6 paths senjutsu, and I have the power to transfer my chakra to others. I can give this divine state to people, but 6 paths sage mode is a mode that is worthless for those who don't have severe training. For those whose chakra has not been refined without severe training and refined chakra, 6 paths sage mode is barely an increase at all. Not to mention, there are 2 more conditions to being able to use it. Naruto explained to her. His eyes were golden. Kuroka saw his pupils had changed into crosses, and that his chakra became so much more divine that she might as well know she was next to a god. Using senjutsu, he had literally turned himself into an actual god. He, a human, had passed the point of humanity and become something so much more. You can turn others into gods, Nyan? 6 paths sage mode is a divine state that uses the principles of all creation to command all things in nature. Severe training, refined chakra, the guts to never give up, and willpower are all needed for this transformation to be powerful. Of course, Naruto's eyes turned back to normal, and he rubbed the top of Kuroka's head again. Right now, if I gave you this, it would only make you about 50 times stronger. That's not enough. The more severe you train, and the more refined your chakra becomes, the greater the power boost from this. Naruto explained to Kuroka, and her eyes widened. 50 times stronger than she currently was, and that alone was considered barely anything in comparison to how great the transformation could be. You would really pass something like that down to me? Of course, it's a master's job to believe in their student. Did you make any progress with your Rasengan today? Naruto asked her, and she shook her head. She put her hands together, and a Rasengan started to form between them. The surface of the Rasengan wasn't perfect, and small amounts of chakra were leaking out of the sphere as Kuroka had difficulty keeping them all contained to the sphere. Naruto reached over her hands, and placed his hand on the sphere. It stabilized instantly. It's not easy to contain rotation and power. Well, you'll get there eventually. Just keep working on it. Naruto told Kuroka as he took her dark purple, now mixed with yellow from his chakra, Rasengan from her into his own hand, and crushed it with his chakra safely. Kuroka smiled. Master, I've been wondering, but why are you covering your neck like that? Kuroka asked Naruto as she got a closer look at his neck, and saw that it seemed to be selectively covered up by him. As if he didn't want her to see his neck or collarbone, since he was making it a point to keep both covered up. Naruto just laughed awkwardly. Well, I was doing some special training with a guest who visited me. Oh, you were having sex, Nyan. Kuroka wasn't stupid enough to fall for that lie. She saw Naruto deflate a little at the crass way that she said that, but she still pulled her lips into a cat-like smile. So Master is getting some nookie, huh? Well, Master, are you giving Himawari a sibling, Nyan? Kuroka asked, and Naruto palmed his face. You're a pervert, Kuroka. Yes, I am, Master. For your information, what I do with Ophis really should stay between us. The midget dragon was annoyed that I told her that I was busy this week, and this was how I made it up to her. We've been dating for months now, so I figured I should see if we were sexually compatible. It's just sex. That's not true. Some people are more compatible than others, Kuroka. Sometimes, being in love with somebody doesn't make you sexually compatible, and while love between us is still growing, we're very compatible sexually. Me and my wife. We're super compatible. Actually, Hinata and I loved sex with each other, and we had it frequently, but I wouldn't say we were super compatible. We were compatible, sure, but we both have some annoyances with each other sometimes because there were situations where we just didn't click. Naruto explained with his cheeks still a little red. He and his wife loved each other dearly, and it was true that they had a lot of sex, enough to produce 2 children before he got busy being Hokage and they cut back on sex. Still, they did have some differences that sometimes would leave one of them frustrated, or at least annoyed with the other at the end of it. What? Well, Hinata really loved gentle sex, and while I like it, I'm more go-to-bed Kuroka. Naruto picked her up by the scruff of her neck and put her on her feet. He smacked the back of her legs and got her running towards the house. The hell was that child making him say? Naruto sighed before he scratched his head. Hinata loved gentle sex, but that meant he had to hold back a lot with her. He loved pleasing her, but he wanted to go faster and harder. He was satisfied by the sex, but he was, at heart, a rather loving and wild person. He had a ton of energy, and a ton of love, so he had a habit of going a little overboard in using that energy. Hinata was a shinobi, and while she could go for a long time, to say that there was a large difference in stamina was an understatement. Usually, sex between them would end after only 4 or 5 hours when she was in top condition, and they had the time for it. Obviously, this was before Boruto and Himawari had been born. He wanted to do more, he wanted to go wild and really show Hinata a great time, get her screaming, but while she liked it, she loved gentle more, and it was a little frustrating for him, which left Hinata feeling like she was required to do more to please him. It made her feel bad, which made him feel bad. Hinata was more fulfilled by gentle sex. He was more fulfilled by long and energetic sex. Ophis had zero preference towards sex at all. So long she felt pleasure, she didn't care what was being done to her. She had a strong enough body that, in his base form, he could really pound her harder than he could Hinata without hurting her. Ophis had immense stamina and endurance, so she could come and keep coming with little breaks. It was pure luck that Kuroka only now woke up, after 6 hours, when he and Ophis had been having sex for hours and hours, and he only stopped so that he could go to sleep at a decent time, since he had work to do in the morning. Ophis was much tighter than Hinata as well. The midget dragon had a far smaller body, and with that tighter, stronger body came a far stronger and tighter vagina as well. While, at first, Ophis's vagina could only fit a couple of inches of him, with her shape-shifting abilities, she changed it so that she could perfectly fit all of him inside of her, and still keep that tightness. Of course, Hinata was far more skilled than Ophis could ever be, since Hinata actually put an effort into learning what he liked. Phew, I know Hinata would want me to have this and be happy, but damn it. I didn't think Ophis and I would be so compatible still. You're a way better kisser than she is. Naruto grinned as he thought about Hinata's kisses, something that Hinata did that Ophis could ever compare with. The passion and love that each of those kisses transmitted was on a different level, and they fulfilled him emotionally each and every time. Naruto laid back and sighed to himself. This wasn't about him. He needed to do this for Himawari, as her parent. Kuroka, tell me something, what do you think war is? 3 years she had been studying under her master, and this was the first time that she had ever heard him talk about war before. According to Himawari though, her father, Kuroka's master, had been through an extremely bloody war. He had become a legend who had changed the tides of the war practically by himself. He had appeared all over entire battlefields, and led nearly every battlefield he took place into overwhelming victories. Very few opponents had challenged him during war, and he had become known as the strongest after the war he participated in. 3 years, Kuroka had been studying. Naruto had stopped her Rasengan training, since her chakra could only refine itself so much through regular training. Kuroka needed not only to train her chakra and body, but she needed to train herself spiritually as well. Her chakra control was great, but she was neglecting the spiritual side of her energies because of her focus on the physical part of it all. War is evil. Kuroka had never thought about war before. War isn't, by nature, evil. You see, intelligent beings aren't the only ones who participate in war. It's the nature of intelligent beings that turn war into something evil. You see, ants go to war against other creatures. Naruto explained to her as he sat by her side and meditated underneath the waterfall with her. Kuroka nodded her head slowly as she comprehended what he was saying. She didn't understand it though. Papa. Himawari, I'm having an important talk with Kuroka right now. I'll be with you in just a little bit, okay? Naruto asked Himawari patiently, when she came forward and tried to interrupt the training. Himawari nodded her head, and she waved to Kuroka, before she grabbed Naruto's jacket from the ground and folded it up. That's cool, I was just getting laundry started. So master, how is war not evil by nature? Kuroka asked him about the bigger part she didn't understand. So many taught that war was evil. War is a clashing of ideals, to put it simply, war is just two sides working towards opposing goals. That in itself isn't evil, it's the intelligence that makes it evil. War breeds murder, and the families of those murdered grow to hate, and that hatred will spawn future wars and more hatred and pain. Suddenly, the war that started as clashing ideals turned into a war created by hatred itself, which just breeds pain and suffering. Naruto explained the idea to her patiently, and while she didn't completely understand his long explanation, she did understand the point behind his words. Conflict wasn't evil. The horrors caused by conflict were evil, because intelligent life made those conflicts something that spawned evil. Why are we talking about this during training though, Naya? Kuroka asked Naruto with a curious glance at him. The humans of this world have had countless wars. The supernatural creatures of this world go to war against each other frequently as well. Why do you think that is? Naruto ignored her question, and Kuroka's ears flattened against her head. She tried to think of the answer. Somebody hurt somebody else, and that somebody wanted revenge. Kuroka tried to get some context clues out of his explanation. She wasn't completely stupid. Right, man has, and before you mention women, I'm using the word man to describe all humanoid life. Naruto saw her about to be a smartass about his use of the word man. Naruto cleared his throat when she just smiled sheepishly, since he caught her before she could try and tease him. And they had a nature. By man's nature, man hates what has hurt it. Intelligent life hates what has hurt it, and thus, if you hurt another person, they come to know pain. Using that pain as fuel, they grow to seek revenge. It's a vicious cycle of hatred and pain, all caused by war. Naruto told her, and she thought it over. Kuroka furrowed her brow. But war isn't evil. No, war isn't evil. To protect this universe, I go to war against the Otsutsuki whenever they show up. Whenever I kill an Otsutsuki, I save countless lives. They are monsters who slaughter and devour worlds for their own amusement. If I did not go to war against them, that would be evil. Naruto explained a situation in which war was perfectly acceptable, using himself as an example. You hate the Otsutsuki though, Kuroka mentioned. I don't hate them, but I understand they are evil monsters. You see, you can dislike something without hating it. Of course, they hate me though, so to them I'm the evil one. It's all a matter of perspective though. To them, I'm just a human stopping them from doing what they've always done. Naruto explained the Otsutsuki side of the story as well. How to them, Naruto was just some mortal who couldn't keep to his own business, and get killed by them. Kuroka's jaw dropped. Wait, you just stated you dislike them. Yes, I do. They are monsters who eat their own to gain more power. They destroy worlds, devour universes, and end life for nothing more than their own selfish desires. Inside all of us, there exists darkness and evil. Even you? Kuroka interrupted quickly. Naruto smirked confidently. Of course not, I conquered that years ago. Where I come from, mastering your inner darkness is something very few achieved. In this world, where senjutsu itself is tainted and tries to bring that darkness out of you, mastering and purifying your inner darkness is vital to your training. Right now, you already know how to use senjutsu, but Naruto trailed off and glanced at Kuroka. She frowned. For Naruto, who had mastered and purified his inner darkness, the nature energy of this world had nothing it could latch onto and pull out of him. He was completely immune to the hate of the world, because the hate of the world could not attach itself to the darkness of his heart. Of course, every time she had used senjutsu, she had to limit her use of it to only as much as she could control. If she used too much, she risked facing the downsides of senjutsu. Using too much is bad, so if I master my inner darkness, then I will become immune to senjutsu's negative effects. Nyan? Kuroka concluded unsurely, since that sounded pretty impossible to her. A person's darkness was their inner, more personal, and above all, most private self that even they wouldn't know the depth of. To conquer and purify such a thing would take an iron will that seemed just impossible to have. Yes. Then why don't you train students in that first? It takes intense training and meditation to enter your own mind and find your darkness. I meditated in front of a mystic waterfall in order to fight my darkness. Of course, since then I've become able to enter my inner soul at a whim. Naruto extended a fist towards Kuroka, so that she could get a taste of what it was like. Inside of Naruto's soul, hint, where Naruto met Kushina. Whoa, it's like golden clouds. Kuroka was amazed when she saw that she was standing, surrounded by an entire universe of pure golden energy in the shape of clouds. Not only that, but beyond the clouds, she could see pure stars and the sparkles of the important people of Naruto's memories. Naruto smiled and looked around. The deepest parts of his soul, something he had only entered when he was showing somebody his own soul, or when he was meeting somebody located in his soul. Of course, nobody else had easy access to this place, not even his tailed beast. This is a heart with no darkness, Kuroka. The training is not impossible. It just outside of Naruto's soul takes the guts to not give up. It is completely possible for you to learn how to conquer the darkness in your heart and reach new heights of senjutsu. Naruto grinned with full confidence in her ability to somehow manage it. Kuroka was about to smile back and say something. Much. Kuroka felt a pain in her ass, a literal pain in her ass, as she jumped out of the waterfall with two small figures clamped down firmly onto her ass cheeks. She landed on her face away from the water. The newest Uzumakis. aka the children of Naruto and Office, who were birthed from eggs that Office had laid after Naruto had relations with her many times. He had gotten her pregnant, but being a dragon god, instead of giving live birth, she just let out some eggs and hugged them for months as she waited for them to hatch. Naruto named one of them. Office tried to name the other, but Naruto rejected her name, and named the other as well. Office wanted to name one of them Child, that name didn't fly with him. So, Naruto had twin children now. A boy named Shi and a girl named Nita. Of course, those were just the shortened versions of their names. Shi had taken the appearance of a 6-year-old boy, shape-shifting powers, with his mother's black hair and his father's peach skin. Of course, he kept his mother's silvery eyes, and had her angled face as well. He was quite a looker, a cute kid, but his face was always filled with emotion that he didn't feel. Shi was born with 0 emotions, but his face was always filled with them. He felt no emotions, but he showed them. Nita took the appearance of an 8-year-old girl, with her mother's pale skin and her father's golden hair and blue eyes. She had more angular features, but her father's heart-shaped face, as well as a more lean frame than petite. Unlike Shi, who had no emotions but was capable of showing them, Nita had all of the emotions of the twins, but was completely incapable of showing any of them. Shi's face showed Nita's emotions. Nita's face showed Shi's lack of emotions. Their physical features were completely flipped from which parent they inherited what from, and the only thing both children had kept when they shape-shifted were 2 whisker marks on each cheek. No matter what they shape-shifted into, those whisker marks always stayed on their faces. Nita, stop biting Kuroka, she's not food. Naruto grabbed his youngest children by the shoulders and pulled them from Kuroka. She had bite marks on her butt. Oi. I just thought her booty would be really funny to bite, but it was really just the same as biting a pillow. Shi let out an excited voice, showing amazing energy and pep. All of which didn't seem to translate into his body language as he showed no motivation to move any part of his body he didn't need to show the story. Nita, on the other hand, was jumping back and forth from leg to leg. Her face showed nothing. It was very funny, I'm going to die laughing, Daddy. Nita's face showed nothing, and even her tone lacked any love or emotion to it. Thankfully, Naruto was an experienced parent, and like an experienced parent, he could understand his children without needing to read their faces. My ass is not a chew toy. Shi looked at her. You two go to the kitchen and get Himawari to make you a snack, your sister will happily fix you anything you want. No more biting Kuroka, if it happens again on my watch, I'll give you both a spanking. No, Daddy, no spanking. Nita's dull voice spoke as she covered her rear end quickly, and with energy. Ha ha ha, a spanking? That totally sucks. Shi didn't do anything with his body, but he found the prospect of a spanking to be best avoided in a more neutral way on the inside. Kuroka gave both children glares as they left. How did Master's nuts produce those little brats? I mean, sure they are adorable, but those shape-shifting little shits are going to be the death of me, and even though they are barely even thread, they're already stronger than me little bratty geniuses. Kuroka got off her face and rubbed her butt, glaring at the children as they entered the house. Kuroka looked up and saw one of the strongest dragons in the world was sitting on the roof of the house, but naked as she basked in the sunlight. By the way, Office contributed very little to parenthood and raising children, because she had literally no maternal instincts to speak of. She only acted like a parent when Naruto told her to. Sorry, Himawari, right now, those children need a good big sister figure to look up to. I can't grant your wish until those two are old enough to understand, but at least you seem